It's an appropriate T-shirt for this discussion.
I thought so. This is serendipity, honestly, because yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I guess I should. Should we just start the show without witty banter?
Yeah, let's launch into it.
Okay, so I'll do the intro. Yeah, I told you I was recording.
Okay, I don't need to record it.
No, I mean if you want to do a backup, you can. But no, it should be good. I'm recording here.
All right, I'll just I have to request permission from you.
Okay. Did you do that?
I don't know how to ask permission.
I will say this. Have you been watching much just how the news is covering stuff now, like with social distancing?
Yeah.
It's hilarious because we get to see who has shitty mics at home, who has no room for a home office.
Yeah.
Or also some people they don't have good enough internet. So it's funny, yesterday on CNBC, the host of their show, was 30 seconds lag.
I've seen some of that. Yeah.
I'm just this is too good. And you're dude, breaking news, and this guy's supposed to react to shit, and it's
oh man.
It's a brave new world. I feel like I've been preparing for this by just working from home and being kind of a shut-in in general.
My family's how's everybody holding up? I'm I've been training for this my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to understand, people are having a problem with this. It's
it is kind of surreal. I don't really remember all that's happening until I step outside and see how Asif, I live off Hills and Dales, and that road is empty and quiet for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm. You know? Oh, when I closed up the office, Shacknews Intergalactic headquarters, 30 minutes before the shutdown occurred.
Yeah.
And that that Jackson Township Office Park area.
Yeah.
There was no one. No one. Not even the hood geese.
No hood geese. The hood geese are in quarantine.
When I was coming into the office, though, I will say this. And this must have been the day before, actually, on Sunday, while I was doing Half-Life Alyx capture. I saw a deer in the woods behind our office, and I just kind of stopped on that road and pulled over and looked at it, and I was like, wow, it must be thirsty. But yeah, that was the only creature I saw near our office in a 2-day period.
Jeez.
It's and I know we're not some bastion of economic boom town ism, but at least we.
No, everything is relative.
There were people there. There used to be. We have neighbors. There's people there.
The strip was dead too because so many of those stores are closed.
Yeah.
Have you seen the photos of San Francisco?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And also, I've seen videos in Manhattan. I watched the press conference for Governor Cuomo in New York, and it's a nightmare there. That is the hottest of hot spots in the U.S. I about just the densest population in the U.S., right?
Asif, I was telling you, I meant to tell Blake, I picked up my mother-in-law from New York the other night.
Mm-hmm.
She was the only passenger on the plane. That was it. The attendants gave her popcorn. They were hanging out with her. They were taking selfies with her. The only reason they flew is because I guess some people at Canton Akron were going to go elsewhere, so the plane had to be there.
That plane needed to be there.
Yeah, but like even before she boarded, she took pictures when she got to LaGuardia. It was just empty terminals. Like
wow.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. You know.
So now you have the germ.
Yeah, I'm infected. This is it.
No.
That's how Canton fell.
Yeah.
We already had several cases in
Stark
Canton.
County.
In Canton. I believe Timken or whatever they call it now, Mercy.
Yeah.
Mercy Medical has some cases. I'm not sure if Altman does.
Yeah,
but I definitely the last time I had up to date information, it was like 6 cases in our county. But you could assume I saw this quote from Cuomo today. It just made me super unsettled for the rest of the day, and I got out of some stock positions and like I just kind of I raised cash and battened down for the hatches again because the stock market is up like 20% in 2 days or some stupid shit.
Yeah.
He was like, a ton of people are gonna get this, not know about having it, and test positive for whatever, or test negative after the fact and not know they even had it because they're gonna be quarantined the whole time or they couldn't get a test. So it's like, I'm like, that's kind of unsettling that there's so many, like when you think about Manhattan, there's like millions of people outside of the people who live there that just come there every day.
Yeah.
Either from Jersey or tourists or whatever. Connecticut, Philly, like there's just so many, it's such a hub for human travel that like it is, I just think that the numbers are gonna be that's an area where the numbers could be higher than we think. That the projections might be wrong.
Right.
And I think that's scary to think about. Like in any big metropolis. This is like a giant commercial for why I moved to Ohio.
Right.
Like I was like over population density. And especially in America with our infrastructure. So yeah. That'll be our opening pep talk before the show starts. Right?
Yeah. With my dying breath, I will champion Resident Evil 3, apparently.
For the rest of this For the rest of this podcast, we will be talking about one specific topic. It's, I think, the first cage match that we're gonna have in the history of Shacknews, Shackcast, super shows.
Pinfalls and submissions are not valid. You have to climb out, Blake. You got to climb out.
So,
I'm ready.
This is our first. Yeah, let's just start the show. You don't even have to sing. There's no singing.
Can we just put some heavy metal?
Yeah, okay, we'll play some heavy metal
with some explosions.
Hold on.
Just like side profiles of me and David looking at each other, staring each other down.
Heavy metal.
I'll take the Donald Duck approach.
Let's just do.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I practice it more than I should.
Okay.
I think this will do.
I only hear what I want. Just play that.
I don't know if you guys can hear this, but this is the Duke Nukem Megadeth.
I can't hear it, but that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Can't hear it. I can see it.
Well, that's
actually
that's what you get. Welcome to the Shackcast, the official Shacknews podcast of Shacknews. I'm your host, Asif, I'm CEO, editor-in-chief, and I have a ton of paper towels right here. Suck it, universe. I have other titles at Shacknews. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm taking money and trying to make more money out of it so Shacknews can last longer. That's basically what I do during the day. And then I come in around 4, start helping with editorial until I pass out in my chair. And that's what I've been doing these past few weeks. This chair, that couch over there, there's all sorts of places where I sit in this house where I'm falling asleep before getting to bed because I'm still up working.
Well, lately it's not like we have many places to go. Everything seems kind of quiet for some reason. So.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, this is our you're not making the long trek across the mean streets of Canton. The streets of Canton are officially so mean that we have to do a remote podcast, especially now that you've been infected by the New York germ.
Yeah, I picked up my mother-in-law from the airport. She's the only passenger on this flight from New York. So I'm thinking, well, this is it.
But she's been in New York.
I know. Yeah. She was quarantined. She was there helping a live-in family member. But
One in
can't be completely.
1,000 people in Manhattan have been exposed to the virus. At least 1 in 1,000 people. That's many people.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of people.
So
Speaking
I'm sorry.
Of viruses.
Yeah, seriously. So you're our long reads editor. You coming off of a Doom Eternal smorgasbord, like an extravaganza of sorts on Shacknews.
Yes.
And thank you for not driving across the mean streets and infecting me with the virus.
My pleasure.
Lola's sleeping in the other room. She's like, "What is this? We're doing a podcast and no one's here. You didn't even bring out the mics. Like, what is this?"
Yeah.
She can't be bothered with it. So she's sleeping. She'll probably come and tell me when this podcast should wrap up. That's kind of her role.
That's her job.
Anyway. She's pretty good at it.
And then also at I guess beaming in from Scranton, PA, through a series of tubes because he wanted to socially distance himself from Northern California. Blake Morse, our reviews editor.
I'm just hiding out here, writing it out.
Yeah, with Creed, right? He's probably back in the annex, I would imagine.
Yeah. We keep a healthy distance from each other, literally healthy.
Like I don't see anyone else in there with you, so you're at least 6 feet away from most people.
Yeah. Nobody's been here the whole time. They're all working from home, I guess, or laid off, or maybe they've all died.
Well, we're going to find out the unemployment numbers tomorrow. The jobless claims numbers are going to come in, and that'll be a huge number.
That'll be a fun one.
So yeah, luckily no one at Shacknews is going to be on that list.
Thank freaking goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
Praise Jah, as I've been saying lately. I think really what this whole thing boils down to is that we weren't appreciative of Jah enough.
Yeah.
I think everyone's like, oh, God this, or Jesus that, or Moses was great, or Buddha. We didn't talk about Jah enough, and now look what Jah has brought us. It's we need to praise Jah more often.
We had it coming.
So that's going to be my thing. I'm going to keep praising Jah every day.
Everything will be all right. Give thanks and praise to the Lord.
Whenever anything happens, just praise Jah.
Praise Jah.
Doom Eternal release, praise Jah. Animal Crossing out, praise Jah. Half-Life Alyx. Holy shit! Praise Jah for Half-Life Alyx.
Yes.
My God. So good. Sorry. I just want to get on top of a mountain.
Jah.
I want to get on top of a mountain, praise Jah, and thank Gabe for Half-Life Alyx. It's amazing. So good.
I'm just picturing Asif in Birkenstocks and some torn up acid wash
cargos.
With a really baggy cardigan.
If we're being honest, I'm wearing New Balance cargos, a hoodie. There's no cardigan, really.
No, you got. This is the whole different Asif.
I don't like Asif cosplay. Awesome cosplay is
it's Rasta.
I wore an Obsidian hoodie today.
It's Rasta Asif or Rostif.
Rasta Asif. With dreads and shit.
Not even you are cosplaying Asif. Where's the Cleveland apparel? I barely recognized you.
I mean, right now, yeah, because most of my Cleveland hats right now are invalid. Right? Because there's no sports teams.
That's true.
So there are no sports here in Ohio. I like my Boring Company hat, but when I'm wearing my winter hat these days, because it is psychotic.
It's
weather.
Fluctuating, yeah. It's Ohio weather.
I wear my winter cap, which is a Cavs hat. I do have several Cavs winter caps that I wear. But today I was like, if you watch the Canton, Ohio weather report, which I'm sure everyone who's watching this does,
yes. It's one of my favorite parts of the day.
It's one of your number one sources for weather in Canton, Ohio, and news. because like we talked about the Ohio shutting down the election before it happened. We broke that.
That's right.
On the Canton, Ohio Weather Report. How about that, David?
I know, that's pretty incredible.
The election that I voted early in got delayed. Now let me spin you a yarn real quick before we start the rest of this podcast.
Okay.
And Blake remembers this. 2016. The Cavs are down 3-1 in the NBA Finals. Right?
Yes.
Everything stacked against them. Bernie Sanders is down right now, right? In the delegate count.
Yes.
Like what is the Democratic delegate count?
It's
1,215 to 910.
That's not a huge margin.
It's not.
Yeah. Ohio has yet to vote.
This is true.
We are the swing state. We are the heart of it all. We are the state that the mayonnaise delegation, minorities, everyone. It's like a melting pot of everything. Ohio is very diverse in different areas. And it like represents classes of people, races of people, genders of people that are at the core of what an American is, right? So we are representative of the whole state. Why can't Ohio be the primary that turns this primary around? Why can't we be like, all this bullshit with the virus and how no one had health care and the infrastructure wasn't there? Maybe Bernie Sanders was onto something.
Yeah.
With Medicare for all. And like, why can't we be the state to trigger this? Why can't we be the state to be like, no, Biden is a mayonnaise sandwich. We need Bernie Sanders right now.
I think we could. I think a lot of people will vote very differently after all of this lifts than they would have beforehand.
Right? Please, people of Ohio, let us be the state to turn this whole thing around, because we didn't pick yet. All this has happened, right? There's all these states that picked before the escalation, right? And now there's these that there were like several states that voted on that day that Ohio had postponed our election. Florida voted, right? But who the hell was going to run out to the polls on that day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is still a moment. I'm just like 1,215 to 910. The Cavs were down 3-1. We had to win 3 games against the winningest team in the history of the NBA regular season. And that happened.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
So, like, please, if you haven't voted yet, I know California hooked it up, but, like, other states out there, this is our chance still. We still have a chance. And like Bernie's holding these daily live streams. Have you seen his live streams? He's got like 100,000 people watching him. He brings all these different people in from his movement talking about what we can do about the coronavirus pandemic. He has stopped all campaigning to focus entirely on what needs to be done to help us during this pandemic. If you can't find this, like, just please give us a shot here over at Bernie Sanders' camp. Because I think that, like, he had a lot of foresight looking at this pandemic. I don't know how many weeks in we are. Time is meaningless right now.
It really is. Yeah.
like, it's either moving really slow or really fast. I can't tell. Like, it feels like things are happening quickly. Like,
days are blurring together
since the last episode. Like this, and then we will really start why we're here. But this is like wigging me out. The Federal Reserve has announced that they're going to print an infinite amount of money. Infinite.
I read that.
Infinite. An infinite amount of money to buy bonds and stocks and debt instruments and God knows what else.
Why can't we just all have infinite amounts of money then?
If they can print infinite amounts of money, why can't we have health care for everyone? Why can't they forgive everyone's debt right now? If they can bail out airlines, think how horrible airlines are. how horrible they treat their customers.
Or cruise lines. That's the one that gets me. That's the one that gets me.
Bailing out. Let that industry just disappear off the face of the earth. We'd be fine if we just let the free market. And I know there's people that work for the cruise line industry, and they'd be affected. But there were ice harvesters, and they got put out of business by refrigerator companies. It's like, I think that, like, it's fascinating that the same people who didn't like healthcare for all because it's socialist now want to nationalize the airline industry. They've already done the banking industry. They already did autos. Is Denny's going to get a bailout?
I hope.
That's my question. But yeah, sorry. Infinite
government-run Denny's.
When the government can tell you they can print infinite money, but then every time Bernie has an ambitious plan, how are you going to pay for it? That's complete horseshit. It shows you how full of shit everyone is in this fucking government. It's bullshit. It's like infuriating. It's like we're spending so much money and it's like pissing it down a hole because like you're just letting short more into you, Federal Reserve. Like that's all that's happening here. You're providing liquidity for Goldman Sachs to short more. It's insane. Like I can't tell if it's more dangerous than the last time we gave banks money, but this is the 1 month and the 3 month treasury bills have negative interest rates. That means that you pay the government to hold on to your money for a month and 3 months. The fuck? That makes no sense.
It is funny because, you know, people say, what do you think, I could just print money? Like, apparently you can.
Yeah, they have a printing press and pallets of money that they move around.
An infinite amount of money being made by an infinite amount of monkeys on an infinite amount of money presses.
But it just, and this is it. It says a lot about our government that when the stock market crashes, there's an infinite amount of money. But when people need health care, there isn't. That's it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
But, okay. Now that I've gotten off my soapbox, we are here for a very special episode of this Shackcast, right? The official Shacknews podcast of Shacknews. Because we're talking about a topic that it comes up not extremely often.
Every once in a while.
It comes up every once in a while, as it should. I think it's a debate that I encourage on the site, and I'll just get right into it. We have a game that the reviewer thinks might be a 10 out of 10, and Shacknews has never given a 10 out of 10. We've only given scores since 2012,
2012 or 2013, I think.
Yeah. And it was mainly to become part of, or to be on Metacritic and all that. I personally don't like review scores. Like, same. I think that my review, when read, should tell you how excited I am about a game or not. Or what, if I really think it's crap, you'll know. If I think it's great, you'll know. And, you know, we have just recently, Doom Eternal got an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
The predecessor got a 9 out of 10. Went on to be our game of the year. Other Shacknews games of the year. Breath of the Wild got a 9 out of 10. Which is insane. There's The Witcher 3. Many people thought that was a 10 out of 10. David would probably disagree that that's a 10 out of 10 game.
Pretty strenuously. Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I think that there's, you can go back and even Mario 3D World, right? That was the Shacknews game of the year. I think that was a 9 out of 10. And that's an excellent game. Same with Mario Odyssey. Now, we have given a lot of 9s out of 10s. Like, a 9 out of 10 is a very good game at Shacknews. You know? So I think that...
delicious game.
But the question is this game... and we're going to talk about this in a way that we will run this after the embargo. So you can be as free as you want to make your case, David.
Right.
the question is this game a 10 out of 10? Is this the first 10 out of 10 at Shacknews? Or are there flaws in David's case that may lead to a 9 out of 10 score? That's really the question here. And the game is Resident Evil 3 Remake.
I wish it said that at the main menu.
Oh, right there. -1. Done. Case closed.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. I feel like,
I do love that sound.
I do too.
David's going to make his case, but I feel like he's already made it. I'm going over his review. I feel like I already see cases that he's made for it to be a 9 out of 10.
Okay. Well, that's why I'm here. I suggested this debate because I think it's, a 10 out of 10 should be a big deal. It's not something that should happen every other month, even every other year. So if you want, Asif, I'll just jump right in and lay this out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I think anyone at Shack who knows me, I'm pretty active in our chatty community. I do like Resident Evil a lot. I think there are a lot of bad entries or mediocre entries in that series. And to be honest, Resident Evil 3, originally released in 1999, was one of those. I thought it was fine. Here's the thing. Fans clamored for over 20 years for a remake of a very specific Resident Evil game, and it was not Resident Evil 3. It was Resident Evil 2, which came out last year. I thought it was fantastic. If I reviewed that, I would not have given it a perfect 10. I thought that the middle area, the sewers, did drag a bit, or it's kind of bland design. It was pointlessly confusing to navigate. And it had, just like the original, it had 2 unlockable campaigns. There's Leon A and B and Claire A and B. But the campaigns, really, other than a couple of remix puzzles and the very beginning, your first kind of sprint through the police station, that's all that was changed. The rest, it literally it's like a train switching tracks from from B right to A. The rest of the game after Police Station 1, again, other than a couple of puzzles, is exactly the same as the A scenario. Mm-hmm. Resident Evil 3, this remake, I didn't ask to review it. You assigned it to me because I do a lot of challenge runs in Resident Evil games, specifically the RE2 remake. So you assigned it to me. And to be honest, knowing what I know about Resident Evil 3, I was like, well, if it's even like half as good as RE2, I could see like a 7, but probably an 8, because Resident Evil 3, one of the problems with it was that it followed RE2 so closely that even stalwarts were saying, I've had 3 games of this. It's just kind of more of the same. I'm ready for something new.
Yeah.
In fact, a bit of trivia, RE3 did not start development as RE3. It was a side project. I believe Code Veronica was supposed to be RE3, but that got delayed. So Capcom said, we'll take this side projects, put Jill Valentine in there, and then add a 3. So that's kind of how this started. It wasn't exactly an auspicious start to its story.
Yeah.
But I played this remake, which I actually think more of as a reimagining, and I'll get into the nuance of the differences there. Within an hour of playing this game, I realized that this was something special. This was better than RE2's remake, a game I had been looking forward to for since the remake of the first game on GameCube. And I honestly, any flaws I can find, because every game has flaws, to me are very minor. This is a reimagining, like I mentioned, because, last year, RE2, the remake, fans could, as you went through the sewers, the RPD, the Umbrella Nest, the lab, you could see a lot of similarities. You recognized hallways, you recognized certain rooms. They even called back to certain enemy and item placements. There's a lot of new content. They cut like the giant spiders in the sewer and the crows. And there are a lot of fans that were upset about this because apparently they think that like a remake should be the exact same game they played 20 years ago, but with better graphics. RE3 is a reimagining because I would say like 70 to 80% of that game is brand new. It does not use the same layout as RE3. Mm-hmm. The story has been rewritten. Jill's sidekick plays a much bigger role. A lot of story beats from the original game are missing. There are new weapons. There are new enemies. One is a zombie that almost looks like the facehugger zombies from Half-Life. Nemesis has been completely overhauled. The dodge mechanic, which was originally introduced in Resident Evil 3, is much, much better. Back then, you had to wait until like an enemy attacked and then press like 2 buttons at the same time. but they were both the aim buttons. So sometimes your character would just aim and then get punched in the face because it didn't dodge like it was supposed to. Everything about this game, from the RE engine, which is still probably my favorite piece of tech in gaming right now, to the design of the level layout, to the retooling of Nemesis, I think is just outstanding. I honestly did not expect to be as impressed with this game as I am. Now, just before we sat down to record, there's been a rumor, which I think we should have reported on by now at Shacknews, that some fans, as always seems to happen, they mined the Resident Evil 3 demo that came out a week or so ago, and they found what appeared to be evidence of an alternate ending and unlockable mode. I've only seen one ending, which I think is fine, but I did finish the game. There is a brand new mode. So one of the flaws of the original RE3 was that, unlike Resident Evil 2, with 2 characters and 2 scenarios for each of them, Resident Evil 3 was just Jill. If you played the game once, you've seen everything that there is to see. Yeah. There is actually a remix mode in this game called Nightmare Mode. You have to beat hardcore to unlock it, which I just did. I finished the game 3 times now. I'm going to start a 4th tonight. Nightmare Mode is the most challenge, but it also remixes enemy and item locations. So that kind of gives you a reworked campaign to play. You also, the first time you beat the game, you open a store where you can spend points that you earn for completing basically achievements in the game to unlock things like infinite ammo weapons, special coins that when you carry boost your attack power or your defense or your health regeneration, a crafting tool so that you get like double the amount of ammo when you craft. And you can take this, I think, into any mode. I don't know that you can take them into Nightmare yet, but the game offers a lot of replay value that I think is head and shoulders over anything any Resident Evil has done before. Like I said, the big deal about Resident Evil 2 was every character has 2 campaigns, but in the remake, the second campaigns, the alternate scenarios, were pretty much the same, other than maybe like 10 to 15% reworked content. This game is so fun to replay. The first time I beat this game, I was talking to a Sam Chandler, a guides editor, who has also replayed it. He really likes it. That I completely missed the Magnum. I completely missed several areas my first time through. There's so much to explore. There's so much to find. Every time I play it, I'm finding something new. The only part of the game I haven't tried, as of right now, we're recording this on the evening of March 25th, so about 5 days before the review embargo lifts. Resident Evil Resistance is supposed to ship as this game's multiplayer mode, but it almost looks like it's going to be a Doom 2016 situation where the multiplayer mode is technically like a separate executable. There's not even, as of right now, there is no Resistance mode on my main menu. This may be, Resistance may not be so much as of a multiplayer mode as a multiplayer game that comes free with Resident Evil 3.
Now, I played Project Resistance at Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah.
And it's not anything, I don't know. I'm not incredibly impressed by it. It's fun. I think it's more fun when you're the mastermind than when you're whatever, like the other 4 people,
the survivors. Yeah.
No, I think that's a game that's, I don't know. I like multiplayer games I can pick up and play by myself. I don't think that's a game you can do that. You really need a group of 5 friends, and then to rotate, because you have to communicate, which is awful to do online.
Right.
But I can speak to that game's multiplayer just from my experience there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing like, I think your comparison to Doom 2016 is fair in the sense that it's like, not like, no one remembers Doom 2016 for its multiplayer. And right. I don't think people are going to remember RE3 Remake for Project Resistance, probably.
I think that's fair. It's also, I made that comparison also because, I reviewed Doom 2016 and I gave it a 9 instead of a 10 because the multiplayer was lackluster. And you know what? If Resistance is lackluster, I'll knock this score down from a 10 to a 9. The point I would make, though, is that, Doom 2016's multiplayer wasn't terrible. It was just kind of there. I feel like people came to that game for the campaign. Resident Evil players come to Resident Evil games for the campaign. I mean, these games are meant to be replayed, which is why I talk so much about replay value. speedrunners and challenge runners like Carcinogen SDA, who does like these like no damage, no save playthroughs where I get a lot of my strategies. He'll probably give the multiplayer, a try. Maybe he'll stream it with friends, but then he's going to go right back to doing challenge runs.
Mm-hmm.
So just as I feel that Doom 2016's campaign was the heart and soul of its game, and the same can be said of Eternal, I feel like Resistance, unless it's actively terrible, I don't think that will affect. No one is buying Resident Evil 3 for the multiplayer. No one out there is going to do that.
Mm-hmm. I actually thought it was, when I played it, it was not announced as part of RE3 yet. RE3 had not been announced yet. So
Right.
Project Resistance was what it was called, and it was a separate standalone game. And just at its face value, I didn't think it was like anything amazing. But that's like, that was a vertical slice in September.
Right.
So,
right.
And at the same time, it looked impressive because the engine is still really impressive. And that, I think, the feat of bringing a multiplayer game to that engine is not something we should ignore. It looks very good. That game is, and it's interesting. We see this, it's like a new era of engine building again. You have the Source 2 engine, which might be the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Outside, and then you have Unreal, which they do amazing things, in Unity, and then RE Engine is, for what they do, that style of game, that might be the best engine. Like I would love to see Naughty Dog make a game in this engine.
Yeah.
And, like, no offense to their whatever they're using over there. Like, I just think that an Uncharted game in the style of an RE Engine game would be kind of amazing.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting because I'm glad you mentioned like Doom Eternal and Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil Resistance. I think what they have in common, publishers are placing a larger focus on asymmetrical multiplayer, which I actually think is really cool. Like, as much as like the Doom purist in me thinks that Doom Eternal shipping without deathmatch is kind of a bummer. I also think battle mode, I haven't had time to try it yet because of all the Doom Eternal features in the past week. I actually think battle mode sounds a lot more interesting to me. And, there is a precedent for Resident Evil Resistance. I don't know if you remember from the PS2, Resident Evil Outbreak 1 and 2 were kind of a similar style where 4 players played as 4 different characters, each with their own abilities and items, but there was no mastermind.
There was no mastermind.
It was still PvE. It was the players versus the environment. This game sounds like it will be similar to Outbreak in that the 4 survivors have their own skills or whatever, but the mastermind, I think this is a game, again, I haven't played it yet. It sounds like, kind of to your point, Asif, if you're playing this with friends, this is almost something you'd want to play with friends. Kind of like Left 4 Dead. Like, you could do pub servers, but my friends and I, every year we have our annual LAN party. We always play Left 4 Dead because there's something special about being in the same room, coordinating, strategizing, laughing, egging each other on together.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate. But I think with, like, Discord and online, whatever, like, you'll be able to play.
You will, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think it's like, and I don't necessarily think it's a detractor for the game or anything. No one's gonna not buy this game because Project Resistance is meh. But at the same time, like, there were things about RE2 that made me think that it wasn't perfect. And
no, it wasn't. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, have those been addressed? Like let's say the library, right? Yeah. I don't know if you remember our live stream where I tried to walk off of a bookcase in the library, and I couldn't do that. Can I fall off of a bookcase in RE3?
There actually aren't any positions on that. You spend most of this game on, like, solid ground.
Okay.
But
I address that with their level design.
I think so too. But also, like, that's not, like, you also mentioned, like, well, why can't I jump the gap in this bookshelf? Here's the thing. In all seriousness, Resident Evil, the classic games, pre-RE4, they were not survival horror games. They were adventure games with survival horror elements. I mean, think of, like, one puzzle solution is, light the painting with the lighter that you find in the library to get the red gem and put it in the bust of the statue in the museum. Like that's a point and click adventure solution, honestly.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to, this isn't a platforming game. If you could just jump the gap in the bookshelf, the problem solved. That's not how you solve things in this game, right? But like falling off the bookshelf, that, I think the reason they didn't do that, just to address it, is because I think it would have been kind of this a needless distraction. When Mr. X is chasing you, you don't want to accidentally fall off the bookshelf. You want to focus on, do I run from him? Do I try to fight him? These are survival horror games, so they're fight or flight games.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. As far as the level design goes, like I said earlier, like I thought the sewer environments in Resident Evil 2, whenever I replay that game, I get to the sewers and I kind of have to force myself to keep going.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
not that fun.
It's not that fun.
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but it is the weak point of the game. Resident Evil 3 has no environment like that. I haven't got hung up on geometry. I haven't found any almost like uncanny valley-esque areas like you did where I'm like, why can't I fall off this? There are new environments, but the environments, like I said, this is a reimagining. The street layout of Raccoon City is completely different. There are little bits and pieces that they brought back. Like there's a part where you have to track down like an industrial fire hose to put out a fire blocking your way. That's in there, but what comes after it is brand new. I think that, like, I've been reading some chatter on like the Resident Evil subreddit, and a lot of fans are upset because there were some areas cut from the original, and a boss fight too. This giant worm. I don't know why people are so upset about this. That boss fight was terrible. Imagine fighting a worm that can like snake around you with tank controls and static camera angles. It just wasn't fun.
No, I remember.
Yeah, but the thing is, in this game, like, Nemesis is the boss. You fight him several times, and he is in evolved stages, so the fight changes every time.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is, the absence of the removal of that boss is actually thematic. There should be no other enemy that is higher on the food chain, or that takes away your attention from Nemesis. He is the big bad of this game. No other bad even compares to him. There are enemies in this game like the Hunters. The Hunters are back and they're much tougher, but you're actually almost relieved to fight them because at that point in the game, Nemesis has been quiet for a while. So the whole time you're like sweating these Hunter fights, which are tough, you're thinking, fuck, I hope Nemesis isn't about to come back right now. So I actually agree with the cut content. Also, my whole thing about remakes is I don't feel like they have to be one-to-one. Like if you want to get into semantics, that's a remaster. It's the same game but with a prettier paint job, right?
Sure.
So I feel like the cut content was actually done in service to the game rather than something that detracts from it.
In the sense that it makes it a better game than RE3, the original.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the original game, like you said, was kind of just another RE, and that boss battle was probably one of the wonkiest things in that game.
It was super wonky, but not only that, like it came like near the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already feeling like, why am I fighting another boss? This should kind of be wrapping up now. Mm-hmm. That isn't a problem in this game. You know, I think a lot of people will complain that the campaign is too short. Yeah. Resident Evil 2's remake, the first time through it, I think took me between 8 and 10 hours. I finished this one in just under 6. Now that sounds like a dramatic difference, but this is made with the same engine. The controls are the same other than the new mechanics like dodge. So I came into this with my Resident Evil RE engine legs under me. That wasn't the case last year. And also, like, this is a much tighter game. There is no dead zone like the sewers of the RE2 remake. This is a much tighter game. Honestly, it is a blast from beginning to end. The other thing I think some players might criticize, but I actually think is very well balanced. You know, people lost their heads when RE4 came out because, it's an action game now. Capcom is abandoning the roots of Resident Evil. Every game, beginning with 2 and into 3, leading to 4, had more action in it. Mm-hmm. Resident Evil 3, the original game, had running zombies. Zombies could run after you. That doesn't happen in this game. You just still have like explosive barrels, and one of the new mechanics is there are portable generators strategically placed so that, like, for example, when Nemesis is chasing you, you actually want to lead him down routes where you can turn around, shoot one of those generators, and zap him. It buys you like 5 seconds, but those 5 seconds are critical.
Okay.
There's stuff like that. Like, this is a really tightly crafted game. There's no dead weight here. I could look at Resident Evil 2 Remake, which again, if I were to review it, it would have been a 9. It wouldn't have been a 10. And you can point to dead weight. You can point to fat. There is no fat on this game.
See.
I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. My point was there is more action in this game, but what happens is the game actually, it kind of swings like a pendulum. You go from really tense survival horror moments. Like, I don't know, Asif, you played this game, right? Do you remember? If you remember,
the original,
the original RE3.
Yes.
There was that part where Jill is infected, and you play as Carlos. You go through a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The hospital in this game is one of the scariest environments ever. I mean, if you saw the pilot of The Walking Dead, which to me is still the greatest episode of that show, the best part of it was Rick creeping through that hospital with the flickering lights and like moans and doors banging, things trying to get out. That is this, but for like an hour. After that, Carlos, he gives Jill the infection, but she doesn't revive right away like in the original game. You continue playing as Carlos. All these zombies are converging on the hospital because people have been firing guns in there, so they hear it. You actually hold down like a siege. You kill like 50 some enemies. They're breaking through the windows. It's this awesome action scene, but the key difference here is this isn't RE5 or 6, which had huge problems. Those games turned into Michael Bay movies. All of the action sequences in this game, and there are really only a few, it is more survival horror, but every action sequence in this game is earned. The reason the siege comes after this really tense crawl through the hospital is it's almost cathartic. You get this release of all the tension that's built up. And then after that, you're back in control of Jill, and you're actually going through a new wing of the hospital with more enemies, with more of the survival horror stuff. So the action here, it's not like Resident Evil 6, which was just, I couldn't even finish that game. It was all quick time events and explosions and bigger guns. Mm-hmm. Here, the action is earned, it fits, and it complements the tension and the dread that builds very, very well. So I'm sorry to cut you off, Blake. I'm sorry to cut you off. I wanted to make that point.
Okay. So, David, you make note that like there's a few things that people are going to be upset about, but I feel like you do that a few times in your review as well. Let's see. I'm trying to find what I was looking for. At some point you talk about Nemesis, and that like there's gonna be a lot of frustration.
Not a lot of frustration.
It sounded to me like you see it as learning, but you say that other people are gonna perceive it as frustration.
Some may consider Nemesis frustrating.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is still a draft. I'm going to rework this, but I'll elaborate on it here. I'm glad to elaborate. So the thing about Mr. X in Resident Evil 2, and one of the reasons I wasn't really looking forward to Resident Evil 3's remake as much is because Mr. X in RE2 was so much more formidable than Nemesis circa 1999. And so I thought, well, now Capcom has to make Nemesis even better, or else Mr. X is just going to overshadow. I mean, this guy, you remember, like the first quarter of last year, the internet, especially Twitter, was like all Mr. X memes.
Yes.
There are mods that do different things with him, like just to relieve tension. Like if you want to relieve tension, you can download a mod that puts Mr. X in a thong. It's kind of disturbing.
There's also a Thomas the Train mod.
The Thomas the Train mod, which is also creepy because you hear Thomas the Train music getting closer to you. So like Mr. X was kind of cool though because he was implacable. Like you could always hear him walking around. Nemesis is different because Nemesis is on your ass almost the whole time. So where some players might be frustrated is Capcom brings back the dodge mechanic, and I compare it in my review to the parry mechanic of Dark Souls, where it's timing based. It's not a difficult mechanic to learn. I think some players may be frustrated because, you're not really meant to stand and fight Nemesis. You want to run from him. The game is telling you to run because every time he appears, the game swings the camera so that it's behind you. They're like, hey, go, do not fight, go, go, go. So he can attack you from behind. Of course he can. And you know, some people might at first, as I did, say, "Oh, this isn't unfair. I didn't see him lunging to punch, or I didn't know his tentacle was coming." Then I tuned in to audio cues. Sound design is a huge part of survival horror games. You oftentimes cannot see monsters. You have to tune into where you think they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
This is really just the evolution of Mr. X. Instead of listening for footsteps, you're listening to Nemesis is not cheap. You hear him pick up his pace behind you and you hear the whoosh of his swing. And you learn that, oh, if I press dodge right after the whoosh, I will do a perfect dodge, which means you press the button at exactly the right time to do a roll that actually slows down time, staggers the enemy, kind of like the thrown off balance, and you immediately get up and keep running. His tentacle, you hear the almost like the crack of a whip, you know, before like a cowboy would lasso a cow or something. There are audio cues. So I realized that, okay, I can't always see him, and I'm not always going to see him. You don't want to stand still. You don't want him to catch up to you, but you can work with these audio cues.
Okay, but here's the thing. You're a seasoned veteran of all of this stuff. Like, you know the ins and outs. You're admittedly a super hardcore fan of the series. So yeah, you're not going to perceive it as frustration, but I feel like you've already admitted that like there's going to be frustration for other gamers here.
I think that, well,
and also there's a few things in here where you're like, hardcore mode returns. You may save as often as you like, no more finite increments. Some players may not like this. I do. That's just dismissive as like this is how I feel about it. I like it, so whatever.
No. Okay, so let's address one point at a time, because we weren't finished with Nemesis yet. I'm a fan of Resident Evil. The games that are good, but if I didn't finish 6, I think 5 is a terrible Resident Evil game. The only reason I kept 5, I had the disc in my hand ready to take it back to GameStop the day I bought it. But the only reason I didn't was because my wife said, "Oh, it's co-op, I'll play with you." And we realized, oh, actually, there's a really good co-op experience here. But Resident Evil, they should just cut Resident Evil from the title. It's like how Man of Steel is a terrible Superman movie, but if you switch your brain off, it's fine. I am a veteran of Resident Evil games. The controls are the same as RE2 remakes, but dodge, this is a completely new mechanic. There wasn't anything like this last year or in any other Resident Evil game that wasn't clunky. I had to learn all this from scratch. Second, you go into this game as a survival horror fan, all of this stuff is what survival horror fans want. Nemesis he's never cheap. He will never insta-kill you. All of this stuff I learned by tuning into the audio and the visual design, which is what you do in survival horror games. In stealth games, you can't complain that enemies keep catching you because you didn't bother to learn their patrol routes, right? Like there are staples of genres that you're supposed to learn.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, but you still admit that like there are gonna be players that have problems there. Like there's still gonna be a wall. Or a hurdle. It's gonna be a hurdle for some. It's gonna be a wall for others.
Yeah, I guess so, but I think the games can make demands of you to learn their mechanics. That's
true,
really what games expect.
They should never work in such a way that they're going to stop certain people from getting through that area and moving on.
I don't know. They do, though. There's plenty of games that are super hard.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
If it's going to be a 10 out of 10, if we're going to have some universal...
It has to be...
like, perfection here. Like, I'm holding this to a much higher standard.
I am too.
You
but
know,
I also...
yeah. And
that's just a battle of semantics, perfection.
Yeah, and that's why there's I don't know, there's several instances where you admit that, like, some people are going to like this, other people aren't going to like this. You say yourself that the game's length may prove more divisive to people. Like, coming in just shy of 6 hours, right there, that's admitting, like, you might not appreciate how short this game is. You know, things like that. And I mean, a game shouldn't be ranked on how long it is, but, like, there it is. There's a divisiveness to it right there for a 10 out of 10.
I'm
for 10 out of 10.
Okay, go
like
ahead.
I want to read what our review scale is to people. Like this is, I believe Adam always calls when I'm recording. If either streaming or whatever, but there was the call. We'll go from 1 to 10. 1 out of 10 of Shacknews is broken. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 is an example of a 1 out of 10. Garbage. Don't buy it. 2 is terrible. 3 is bad. 4 is below average. 5 is mediocre. So 5 is mediocre, right? 6 is above average. 7 is good. Now, a 7 at Shacknews, it's a pretty good game. Plenty of great games get 7s out of 10 at Shacknews. An 8 is great. A 9 is amazing. And a 10 is our highest recommendation. So it has to... I agree with what Blake's saying about a game that gets a 10 out of 10 being appealing to everyone. Like, all gamers. Like, really one of those, like, transcendent kind of games. Like, a game that, like, really appeals to a mass portion of gamers. So I do think that that's a point that Blake is making here with the criticism of Nemesis. I think that, honestly, out of all the cracks that Blake is trying to poke in your thesis here, that's probably the best argument he's made. That there is an and while like a Mario game can have really challenging areas, it's still a game that almost everyone can pick up and play and enjoy. That to me is
you'll hit hurdles.
I want
you'll hit hurdles, but you're not going to hit a wall in a Super Mario game. You're going to hit a level where you were going to play it 5 times in a row, but you're going to get through that level.
The other thing I kind of want to bring up is just the problem Shacknews finds itself in because of our past reviews. And even recently, with the Doom Eternal review, it got an 8 out of 10. And our good buddy Wickus was like, so this means it's worse than Death Stranding. And it's like, obviously there's an element of every review that the person who's reviewing it clearly influences. But there's this history of 9s out of 10s now that this game, if it were to get a 10, it has to sit above. And that to me is the biggest challenge here.
Yeah.
And that I don't necessarily know if it's better. And I know I at some point, for there to be a 10 out of 10, we have to give it 10 out of 10. I didn't give Alyx a 10 out of 10 this week. I was very close at times, but I went through and I was like, no, there's these elements that, and honestly, it's kind of similar. The fact that it's a VR only game and that it requires a really good computer to experience it well, it blocks out a whole bunch of people who can't experience it. And even if you can afford a VR headset and a VR computer, there's elements of being in VR that make people sick that they didn't remove in their game. So it's like, I knew that like this game was like built for me, right? And I was able to be like, you know, it's not perfect. And I think that's the problem that we have here is that there's this constant search for a perfect game at Shacknews to give that 10 out of 10 to. And I think that that's the problem here.
And I don't like the use of the word perfect, though.
I mean...
Masterpiece, then.
But masterpieces can be flawed.
Here's another thing. I don't think we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 3 next year. I don't think we're going to be talking about this game, like, come this time next year.
I don't know, man.
Like,
I will say that RE2 was almost Game of the Year last year. So I do think that I disagree. I think that we will be talking about RE3 come Game of the Year deliberations this year, and for a lot of things.
I think we'll talk about it for Game of the Year deliberations, absolutely. But
that's like,
I mean, I'm just talking about like there's a timelessness to a 10 out of 10. You know, to like a Super Mario World or to Tetris. Like there's a game-changing aspect to this. This is just an excellent game in my mind. It sounds like an excellent game for people that like Resident Evil. I personally still have issues with the control schemes in these games. I haven't played this one, but you know, I don't know.
Did you have problems with the controls in RE2 Remake?
I did not play much RE2 Remake. I do not
the controls are outstanding.
I thought RE2 handles perfectly. I'm someone who beat RE2 in the 90s. I didn't beat RE. I basically played about, I don't know, half of RE2 Remake.
Yeah,
pooping my pants, which was good for me. And I only pooped my pants twice during playing through Half-Life Alyx. For however much you like RE3, David.
Yeah.
I think you're really gonna like Half-Life Alyx a lot. Because it's a horror game. Maybe scarier. And when we start debating best horror game this year, I have a feeling we're gonna be butting heads here, because Half-Life Alyx scared the ever-living shit out of me. And I was afraid of playing RE2.
Yeah.
Once you putting yourself in the game, and then they're like, here's this hallway. There's no lights except for a flashlight that's attached to your left hand, right? And then, here's a gun, and there's just a bunch of head crabs just crawling around you. You can't. When you were talking about using audio cues, Alyx does an amazing job of that too. So yeah, I think that there's clearly Alyx is fresh in my mind as a game that was very close to a 10 out of 10. Mm-hmm. Another game that I reviewed, I would say probably Super Mario Maker 2. It has flaws. There's a reasons why it got a 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. But that ended up being our game of the year. So I understand why you don't like the use of the word perfect here, but 10 out of 10 is perfect. That's if you're talking about a test, right? If you're talking about a test and there's 10 questions, getting 10 of them right would be a perfect test. That's the problem and the stupidity of having numbered scores attached to reviews. But I think that I think between a few things Blake's brought up, but also the history of all the other 9s, the problem that we create by giving this game, saying this game, even if you don't believe that, Wickus is just waiting. He'll be like, here's all these games that RE3 is better than. It's just going to be a list of every game Shacknews has ever reviewed. That's the problem.
I mean, as the reviews editor, I do have a serious concern over establishing precedent. And it's a major concern, because once the door for 10 out of 10s is open, then I'm having conversations like this a lot more with a lot more people, because everybody is.
Here's some games recently that I had to talk to people about being 10 out of 10. Forza Horizon 4. That's not a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. And actually Forza Horizon 3, oddly enough. Both of the Forza games almost got 10s out of 10.
I'll interject that I don't think those games should be excluded from the 10 out of 10 conversation just because they're racing games. And I'm hearing some subtext more so from Blake that, Resident Evil is a survival horror game. It's not mainstream enough, so it can't be a 10.
No, Resident Evil is a super mainstream game. I don't think that it being a Resident Evil game is what's stopping it from being a 10 out of 10. I think that you love it. I think that you love it, and you love Resident Evil. And for you, this as a Resident Evil game is a 10 out of 10. But I don't know if it's like meeting the Shacknews standards for 10 out of 10. If that makes any sense.
It doesn't, because we have this glass ceiling where like no game from now until the end of time can ever get a 10. And I have a problem with that. I think that's absurd. I think that you're always going to have people like Wickus who are going to say, oh, this game is better than that game. Believe me, I thought of this. I thought of the fact that let's say this 10 goes through. Then during Game of the Year deliberations, could I play the card that, well, this is the only game to get a 10, so why are we even having this discussion? No.
Yes, you could.
I could, but it would be bullshit.
You would totally do that. No, you totally would.
Like,
someone would.
I really would. Someone probably would. Maybe Donovan, and then
Donovan would finally join you after betraying you in the great Donovan betrayal of 2019 that led to Super Mario Maker 2 Game of the Year. Barely, by the skin of its teeth, beat RE2. This is really this is what this is about, isn't it? This is about RE2 not getting Game of the Year last year.
It's not. It's not, because hey, I've been very open in saying that's not a perfect game. I would not have given it a 10.
I'm saying I've already found like chinks in the armor here in your own review, in your own words, that I think discouraged me from believing this is a 10 out of 10. When I read the review, I'm not buying it. I'm saying this like I've been thinking about this all fucking day. Like this has been grinding at me, because like I have been very stern in my belief that like there's probably not going to be a 10 out of 10. Like anytime.
You saying that on the record has muddied the water. You realize that, Austin?
No,
you realize that.
Here's the thing.
No,
though.
I'm allowed to state my opinion on the matter.
I think that. I honestly think that the way I've viewed every single time an editor has said this is a 10 out of 10, I have them make their case. This is the first time we've done this publicly. That's the only difference.
Yeah,
it's not I believe it's up for debate, and that's why if someone makes a compelling enough case, then I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a 10 out of 10. But this doesn't really sound like a 10 out of 10.
My point here.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. No. I believe it's a 10 out of 10 for Resident Evil games, sure, but like for universal quality, so maybe you got to step back.
Hey, Blake. You've been thinking about this all day. It's eating at you, right? Did you download the free demo to try it? Oh, maybe it didn't bother you that much.
Ooh.
Well, there's a free demo.
Ooh. Okay,
I'll try it.
I'll play the demo, man. I think if anything, that is going to back up my thoughts that this is not a 10 out of 10 game. But I will try it. I will try it. I'll go in like without my I'm gonna try and be like a clean slate for it, baby.
I didn't have time, David.
Like no. You're not.
I'll try it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try it out. I'll try it after the podcast. I'll try it well before it's time for the review to come out. But I'm just like, based off of what I've read in your own review, like I'm not believing it's a 10 out of 10.
I will say this, and this is not. I'm not trying to throw down a get out of jail free card. This review, it's 5 days away. I'm showing you a draft that I feel is like 99% done. I do, but I don't. You're actually making me think I didn't articulate myself well. I would say that Nemesis would be a problem if the dodge mechanic were as fucking terrible as it was in the original RE3. That thing was so clunky. It was useless. I never used it.
No.
In this game, though, and again, I bring back the comparison to parrying in Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, you could just go up to an enemy and practice parrying. In this game, every time you're near Nemesis, you are also near a save room. To one of the ways that I haven't even done this yet, I learned the timing of the dodge mechanic as I played. And every enemy's dodge timing is different. You know, zombies lunge, Nemesis punches, etc. You can just go up to Nemesis. Greg, in fact, wants me to make a video showing people how to do this. You can save your game, go outside to Nemesis, and just practice dodging. But again, I never had to do that. I just learned as I played. I feel like it would be a problem if the mechanic were fundamentally flawed or broken. But it is something that the game expects you to learn. I think that probably since Dark Souls, honestly, the industry design has undergone a paradigm shift where designers are more willing to let a game be difficult as long as players feel like they can learn, that they can rise to what it is asking of them. And they can. This isn't like NES hard where like there's just a bunch of bullshit that will kill you no matter what. Everything in this game, every death is avoidable, every blow is avoidable. I learned the dodge mechanic and nailing, like the thing is you don't have to, this isn't binary. You can dodge, I say perfect dodge because if the timing is perfect, you'll do a special roll that slows down time and lets you turn to like get a shot in if you want.
Yeah.
Like but even if it's not perfect, you still just lunge away. You just won't get the benefit of slow down time. It's not you dodged or you didn't. There is a pretty generous margin of error for this that will let you continue to play. So it's not like, oh, I messed up a dodge, I just lost half my health. It really, like, standard mode is kind of a tutorial for hardcore. In hardcore mode, the reason I think that infinite saves are a good thing is because, first of all, if you save like 50 times, like I did my first playthrough, your ranking will go down. If you want that top ranking, challenge runners like me are going to be shooting, I think it's 5 or fewer if you want to get like S+, 5 or fewer saves and no deaths. But hardcore mode, like Nemesis can kill you in 2 hits. Is that rough? Yes, but you are not even meant to play hardcore mode until you've gone through standard and, you know, learned the map layout, learned how to dodge. You don't have to get through the game by dodging perfectly. There are a lot of times when I like kind of limped to a save room because Nemesis pushed my shit in, but I still learned the whole time. The fact that the dodge mechanic, which is so central to this game, is learnable and that it gives you a pretty large margin of error makes the fact that, like, I use the word frustrating, I shouldn't have. It's something that you can learn, and even if you don't get it, it's not on or off. You really can learn it, and you can try this yourself. The demo is free.
Okay, so what about the fact that in your cons you say, and I feel like you softball in, some players may miss removed areas and bosses. That's like saying, like, fans are gonna have a problem with this, but like trying to like cushion it.
I think
in
that's,
my mind.
Sure, I can understand that. But my thing is that because this isn't a new game, it is technically a remake. I consider a reimagining, but like remake, I guess, is technically accurate because there was a Resident Evil 3 before this, right? So this is a remake of that. I think that fans who come in with expectations that like everything from 1999 should be there may be disappointed, but I also feel like that is an unrealistic expectation.
Right, is your hand on your mic or something?
Oh, no, how about now?
Yeah.
No, my mic is off to the side. That's weird.
Okay, yeah, it's better now.
I'm using my snowball. Okay. But I feel like expecting this game to be like a polygon for polygon recreation, like that might disappoint some people, but is that disappointment valid? I don't think so, because I think that this experience is fantastic. I think that it is a masterpiece level experience.
Okay, but even if it, like, the fact that, you know, it's not a shot for shot remake, taking out, it sounds like there's been a couple chunks just chopped out. And
is it a shorter game than the original?
I don't know that I can say like a 1-to-1 comparison, but I would say yeah. But like, keep in mind, since Resident Evil 1, the whole idea of Resident Evil games is they want you to beat it in like 90 minutes or less because that's how you get the best unlockables. Like, they want you to speedrun this thing, basically.
Oh no, for sure. And like,
so like RE2 remake took me 10 hours the first time, but now I can beat it in like an hour 45 minutes.
You know? Oh no, there's like a whole speedrunning community built around these games, and it's great.
Right.
No, I just, yeah, it looks like the original was about a 7-hour, 8-hour game.
So that's actually only an hour or two shorter than the original then.
I mean, it sounds like this is a really good game and that you love it a lot, but I am still not convinced personally yet. And I'll go play the demo. I'll go give the demo a try. And I'll think about it more, but like, I'm Yeah, I don't know. It is.
Is it
not,
possible for a game to be a 10 out of 10?
It is possible, but I mean, there's just so many goddamn factors. To me, I don't know. I don't think I would ever really give a game a 10 out of 10. I've talked about the one time
I feel
that
like
I've come
Rocket
really
League,
close.
like Rocket League should have been a 10 out of 10. They got like an 8 at Shack. You know what I mean? Like, there's some games out there that I look back on and I'm like, God, that was game of the year. Why are we giving Witcher awards? Rocket League is the game that we're still playing.
Yeah.
I guess there's people still playing Witcher too. I'm not going to say that that's not the case.
There are.
There's people who have another 8th playthrough of The Witcher 3.
I don't know. I wish we didn't have to score games in general.
Pillars of Eternity, the first one. I think Josh wanted to give that a 10.
I think that was an 8.
Dead
I think
Cells
2 is better. Yeah.
Dead Cells.
Pillars. Yeah, Dead Cells. Almost. Dead Cells was very close. There was honestly,
but there are challenge factors I think that make these games alienating.
But
I
found Rocket League extremely challenging. I found it kind of frustrating.
It didn't get a 10.
I personally,
but you said it should have.
That's just my opinion, though.
It should have. Yeah,
I have a bunch of games I think should.
Rocket League's a 9 out of. Rocket League's a 9 out of 10 to me because there's things in that game that I don't.
It's
enjoy.
the elbows too pointy thing about Shacknews, man. The chatty. There's never there's no perfect game because the elbows are too pointy.
Well, I still don't like that word, I guess, but I see why you're using it. But I guess the thing is, we've all played
Super Mario World.
Except Super Mario World is a 10.
That's a 10.
It is. I don't know. I think my problem, and I'm not upset about it or anything, but like the fact that we said out loud that, no game at Shacknews, you said a game at Shacknews could get a 10, but that was kind of a 180 from your original position, where you said you were pretty adamant that no game at Shacknews would get a 10.
Blake said that.
My personal opinion. My personal opinion is that, there's no 10 out of 10s. It's not just my decision to make, though, is it? Like, if it were just my decision to make, we wouldn't even have this conversation to begin with. I would be like, no, that's a 9. And we're done. And there'd be no debate whatsoever because I would just have that decision to make myself.
Yeah, I mean, we had a conversation with Bill, our managing editor, and, I'm editor-in-chief over here. So clearly, and CEO. So I'm like, if we do give a game a 10 out of 10, it's our first 10 out of 10. It should be a game that there's overwhelming agreement in it being the best.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I mean by universal.
I do think that there's a problem in how Shacknews reviews games, in that we have so many people on our staff, not IGN levels of people, but enough people where a Chris Gerard review is different than a Josh Hawkins review, is different than a David Craddock review, is different than an Asif Khan review. I don't give a whole lot of 8s. I don't. If I like a game, it's probably going to get a 9. And if I don't, it could get a 6, 5, lower. But for the most part, I tend to review awesome games because I rarely get to review games, so I pick really good ones. But yeah, if you look back, the most recent game that I reviewed that I think people, their eyebrows were raised on my review score was Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. If you go back and you read that review, it's glowingly positive. So it's that's usually what I look to when looking at the review score. I read the review first and I'm like, what does that sound like to me? And then I look at the review score. You know what I mean? Where I know that in modern day, the way our readers think, they probably scroll down to the review score and then read the review.
Yeah, I hate that. Yeah.
For me, it's definitely read the review first, then look at the score when I'm editing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I do it as well.
And if it doesn't sound like a 10, I'm like, I think that going back to like Forza, it wasn't because it was a racing game. It was because there were flaws in the menu that were like really glaring. And I actually did exactly what David said. I went and downloaded Forza and played it, and I was like, Chris, this is why I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. And Daniel Perez also made the case for Forza Horizon 3 to be a 10 out of 10. And there were problems with that game too, but I remember having to go back and actually cite some issues that I had with the game. But my point is that there are games that have been very close and that we make the case for. So far, the case hasn't been made convincingly enough. That's I think where we're at. I do think that there's still time before this review goes live, so we can, I think Blake should play the game. I think I should probably play the game. But I also know, like, I trust David's opinion on RE games, especially. But yeah, I think that we run a danger here of, like Blake said, setting a precedent and then also unleashing the floodgates. Because then God knows what Death Stranding on PC will get.
I don't know. I don't look at it as I see the merit in your argument. I don't look at it as opening the floodgates. I think that doors should be open because right now nobody can walk through, and I think that's a little absurd. I also think it's absurd that, like, the universal appeal. I would argue that, like, I gave my mom the controller for Mario. She walked Mario right off a cliff and said, enjoy your game. I think that the only game ever that has had universal appeal might be Tetris. But here's why. Tetris takes time to learn, but you screw up a few times and then you learn. Now, I'm not comparing Resident Evil 3 to Tetris. I'll only say that the issue that we keep coming back to with this, where, about Nemesis, is the fact that it sounds like it could be frustrating. Again, that's my fault for using poor wording there. But the dodge mechanic is something that you learn, and it really clicks with you. It might be interesting to hear from Sam Chandler, again, our guides editor. He's completed the game. I talked to him this morning. He loves it. We didn't talk score. I don't know if he considers it an 8, a 9, or 10, or what, but I know that he really, really enjoyed it.
Is he around right now? He is.
He might be. We could bring him into this. That'd be fun.
Sam, do you want to just get on the camera for the podcast really quick?
Yeah.
By the way, I did not realize this was this week's episode of the Shackcast.
Boom! Surprise. I think the other thing is, like, universal appeal.
I can already next week's, right? Because we're talking about.
Oh yeah. We should probably post this on Friday the 30th. Like,
that's what
the review.
I was gonna post. The idea was we're gonna have a headline. I was gonna clickbait the fuck out of this, right? Is Resident Evil 3 a 10 out of 10 at Shacknews? Was gonna be the name of this episode.
Yeah.
And then tune in because there's a review that'll go live the exact same time as this podcast, right?
Right. I like that idea.
I think that's kind of like, maybe this could become a rolling feature if we have, because there's another game coming. Talk about some, as Chris Gerard said, there are some bangers this past month and going into next month.
Yeah.
Where the case could probably be made again. For Final Fantasy VII.
And honestly, that's been the one that, like, I've been thinking about most, like, having a potential to get a 10 out of 10.
It's gorgeous. And
it's Cyberpunk?
It's
maybe, see, that's another thing I'm worried about is, like,
Cyberpunk. Who knows? And I don't know. I have not played Cyberpunk. I have played Final Fantasy VII Remake's demo and the vertical slice and a different vertical slice.
The other problem I have is I feel like time is, like, a big element in figuring out whether something is a true 10 out of 10.
The amount of time that you end up playing a game? Like, how many times you go back to play the game? Replay value? I think replay value is certainly a consideration. It sounds like David made a case for that.
Not only replay value, but I mean, think about the games that we're naming off here. Like, they're games that are like decades old now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that we see as like pinnacles of the medium. You know,
I think more than anything, we're making a case that review scores are stupid.
Oh, they absolutely are.
And the only reason that we do them, the only reason we do them is Metacritic.
Yeah, but like once you decide that we have to score something, we definitely
we
gotta have a certain amount of integrity.
You know, firearms.
And you know, it's like, you know, and I did trade to David. I trust you as a writer. I trust your taste, but I can't just like be like, oh sure, it's a 10 out of 10.
Well, I didn't think you would. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will light your head on fire, but not because I hate you, but just because I need to.
Sure, that's understandable.
Because you know.
I inspire that in people. I keep coming back to the idea of universal acclaim, and I don't know that exists. If it exists, it's found in Tetris, but Tetris has that same like.
It's rare.
Rob the Robot.
Nothing about Rob the Robot is a 10 out of 10.
Oh, come on.
Nothing.
You mean without his power cable or battery or
all robots get a 10 out of 10.
Or the gyros? I don't know. I like Gyro Knight. Underrated game.
So I will not be disappointed at all if this ends up being a 9.
Cool. Then let's change it.
No, nope. I still maintain that it's a 10.
This could have been so easy. No. I'm just fucking
the fact that, like, I'll tell you, Final Fantasy VII from previous discussion sounds like it can't be a 10 out of 10 because it's not the full game, which goes back to my point that people expect too much from remakes.
That's actually what I was going to say, is that the number one reason Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably not a 10 out of 10 is that I had to buy 3 games to play the remake. At least RE3 gave us RE3 in one game that cost $60. RE2 was one game that cost $60. This is $200. This is like a $180 investment to play Final Fantasy VII again, which you already played. Now, granted, like I said, it looks amazing.
Reimagining.
And maybe it's a reimagining, maybe it's not. You're talking about different time, who knows? But I think that is a very good point that will be brought up probably in a couple weeks. Because I know who's reviewing Final Fantasy VII, and that person is almost as big of a fan of that game as you are of the RE series. As Brittany Vincent is of Kojima. Like, it's like one of those things where we tend to give people who are enthusiasts the reviews of games that they tend to like, or that they're going to be able to play a ton of it, you know, before embargo.
Sure.
Yeah, someone who's capable of playing a game.
I think, didn't Brittany want to give Death Stranding a 10 out of 10?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Maybe she just, you know, knew it would get shot down. I don't know.
Why would it get shut down?
I don't know, because I'm an evil dictator.
Have you tried to drive in that game?
Yeah. I don't know.
Try to do anything in that game for 20 minutes and tell me it's a 10 out of 10. It's the most infuriating gameplay. He's trolling. 9 out of 10 just because he's trolling us. But it was a prophecy.
It was a prophecy.
You guys just don't care about logistics as much as Hideo Kojima.
I don't think anyone does.
Did you see the guy that built the baby carrier?
Yeah,
for
in
his
China.
Kid?
Yeah, there's someone who built the BB pod.
Death Stranding.
Actual BB pod, a real life BB pod for his baby, so he can go out in the COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah. That game was pretty prescient.
It was. You know
what I mean? Like, we're looking back on it now. I'm like, hey, maybe we should give Hideo Kojima a break there. I'm going back to it one of these days, maybe on PC. But I'm just thinking mods. Ultra wide with some mods. That game could be kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Because there are elements of it that are great, and I know that there's a lot I just know that RE2 was already so great that they're building upon a great game, right? And I think that's what is impressive here. Where Doom 2016 was great, Doom Eternal built on that.
It is not as good as Doom 2016,
right? So there's times where companies will do this and it doesn't turn out well. In this case, it really does sound like it turned out really good.
Yeah.
It did, although I will say again that like I acknowledge the chinks in RE2 Remake's armor.
Mm-hmm.
They do not exist in this game. I don't think it has any chinks at all that cannot be. I don't think it has any chinks at all. I think anything it asks of you can be learned and answered.
Okay. It's just because I feel like in your review that there are points where you say there are things that fans of this game may find frustrating and may not like at all.
I think if social media has taught us anything, it's that not everyone's opinion is valid.
That's fair, but I think that you as a fan are addressing the fans there. And I think you're letting them know ahead of time, like, there's probably going to be a few things like that, like this isn't going to satisfy everybody.
I don't think
but
any
overall,
game
can. Okay, but a 10 out of 10, I mean, that's at least got to cover the entire fan base for Resident Evil, right? Like, that's got to satisfy Resident Evil fans, like, completely. Would you say, at the very least, if it's not going to satisfy every
Resident Evil 4 is one of the most influential games of all time, but I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10. Most RE fans love it, but there are some diehards who, again, do not like it because it went in a more action-oriented direction.
Okay, but, like, I mean...
That game owned. I don't know what they're doing.
I mean,
it did own.
But this is about the Resident Evil 3 remake and, like, the problems that, like, that you have kind of said that fans might take or might be disappointed by or flustered by, possibly.
That's tough because it's parts of RE3 that kind of sucked anyway.
Yeah, the parts that they cut suck.
That's what I'm like.
But no. I see what Blake is saying.
Yeah.
And this was my fault because I presented you the review as it was written, so that's on me. But I'm going to what I want to get across, and maybe you can help me workshop this, is that you may not like these things at first. I questioned them, but as the credits rolled, I said, this is better than anything else they have ever done.
Fair enough.
But the worm was always dumb. I stand by that. No worm. Worm.
Was it the Doctor Worm?
It had a little was it the Doctor? I don't know what that is.
Does he play the drums?
No, he doesnn't play the drums.
Dr. Worm?
Oh, no.
It's not Dr. Worm.
No, not Dr. Worm.
Hello, I'm Dr. Worm.
Well, if he was in the game, then that'd be an 11 out of 10. This
Worm.
Discussion would go completely off the rails.
Yeah,
but,
for real.
Yeah.
This has been a super focused Shackcast.
Yeah, what are we doing? We're off brand.
I know. I haven't talked about fast food or toilet paper or anything. I did talk about.
You talked about paper towels.
Paper towels. There's some toilet paper in there too.
Can you make me some paper towels?
No,
I have toilet paper.
Hell no.
No.
Nope. I'm just gonna be in my COVID-19 bunker here.
I was gonna send you a Doom Eternal print autographed by the team. The whole team.
It's probably riddled in COVID-19 anyway. You can have
I'll just use it to wash my hands now.
Yeah, there you go.
I have no paper towels.
There you go. I mean, I would love that, but
I know you would. And I was going to send it to you.
Covered in COVID-19 virus. So.
Well, I was going to put it in a picture frame or something, to keep all the virus in, and then when I got really mad at you, just come over and break it.
Okay.
Oh, just fly to Ohio when we're allowed to travel again. When travel is, you might be the only passenger on the plane. You can't fly.
You can't.
You might be the only passenger on the plane. That'd be worthwhile.
You can't go to Shacknews Intergalactic headquarters right now, but you can fly to Canton, Ohio. Yes. If that makes any sense, you can fly. But yeah, let's bail out the airlines. Remember when United Airlines put a dog in the overhead and killed it?
I remember.
I remember that same company. Let's give them billions of dollars now because they're horrible at running their business.
So maybe if they just cut back on the avocado toast and the $5 coffees, they would have enough money to cover everything.
So here's a challenge I want to issue each of you because I appreciate this conversation. I think it was a good one. I want you to download that demo, Blake, and I don't just want you to play it. I want you to stream it. I want to watch you play it.
You want to watch me play it, you sick perv?
That's right.
I'm
going RE Resistance Mastermind. I'm going to be watching you as you play.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I think I've got to stream I'm going to help stream Late Night Army tomorrow night, right, Asif?
I don't think so. We're doing a Shack battle tomorrow.
Oh, snap. Well, then I guess I'll stream it on Friday, I guess.
Friday?
We got to get down on Friday. I'll stream it on Friday.
Okay.
And David, I'll have you be there.
I'll be there. I'll be there for you.
Friday the 27th. So
you both will stream it?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No. I don't have internet. How am I supposed to stream?
I was going to say, why do not
stream? It's a miracle you and I are talking over the internet.
This is actually like the most stable web chat I think we've had in Shacknews history and maybe Maslin Cable history. Like I feel like if this were Skype or Hangout something, it'd be a shit show. I do.
Yes.
I could broadcast your share play over my PS4.
Ooh.
For what?
For the Resident Evil 3 demo.
Why? No one wants to watch me play Resident Evil. I'm terrible at these games.
I have to play it.
Yeah, but you should play it.
You're the editor-in-chief. Oh. You have to play it.
I'm going to play the game. But my point is,
why do I have to stream it and you don't?
Because you have the capability to do it without me streaming something to you.
This mindset, I'm afraid this whole argument is flawed. We're throwing out this is a mistrial.
It's really about Mario Maker 2.
Right.
This whole
Resident Evil 3
this
remake
whole thing is about Mario Maker 2 getting Game of the Year last year. I'm telling you.
No, it's not. It's not.
This is all about
I loved Mario Maker 2. I loved Mario Maker 2.
And yet you chose RE2 for Game of the Year.
Yes, I did.
And you still lost.
Because of Donovan Erskine. Donovan, the editor. He's evil. I'm telling you.
And Sam Chandler. If Sam Chandler didn't vote, if I didn't warm Sam Chandler's heart to the point where he would vote for Super Mario Maker 2 above Disco Elysium,
that's true.
RE2 would have won.
Is Sam not coming on the show abruptly?
No, I didn't hit him up for this.
Do I need to reach up?
I think what we should do. Here's my theory, because we can actually we can produce this in a way.
Yes.
What if we let Blake play the game?
Ooh.
I'll play the game.
All right.
And then we come back for a shorter chat with Sam, on Monday or something.
Okay.
Or
Friday. That's when the review goes up.
Or Friday?
Friday.
Maybe Friday?
Yeah.
Let's do
Friday.
So after Blake plays the game on Friday, let's come back and have a short chat. We'll try to get Sam here.
Reconvene. We'll reconvene.
We will reconvene. So this isn't the end of the episode. No one has to go out there and do it for Shacknews. But in a couple of days, after I have played the game, is this on Steam? Can I download the demo on Steam?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to download the demo on Steam. I'm going to play it on Steam. Have we gotten PC review keys yet?
No. We're still with the console peasants.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to download this demo on Steam. And, I just played Half-Life in VR, man. This game isn't scary at all to me anymore. I'll be honest with you. Nothing is going to scare me as much as Half-Life Alyx. Ever.
You also won't have to take a Dramamine before you play Resident Evil 3.
I didn't have to take a Dramamine before I played...
A lot of Shackers have, according to these threads I'm reading.
No, they did not. That's why it wasn't a 10 out of 10, David. I pointed it out. I said they did not revolutionize locomotion in VR. They just said, here's the 3 best practices. You can choose one. none of them are really, to me, I prefer thumbstick locomotion in VR. So that's what I use. I don't get sick from that.
Yeah.
What I pointed out is there's elevation changes in that game all over the place. And when you change elevation in VR, but you're still standing in your living room in real life, there's an equilibrium that's set off in your brain that some people get really sick from it.
Okay.
And that's just the case in all sorts of stuff. There's like flight simulators that cause that. It's called simulator sickness. So that's always going to be a problem in VR. I don't think it's fair to just be like, this is a bad game because of that. It's just,
no.
It's why it's not as accessible as it could be. It's why that there's going to be mods to play that game in flat screen. But I guarantee it's not going to be as good of an experience as playing that game in VR. It was built for VR.
I agree. I fully agree.
That audio design. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Half-Life a lot this year.
I want to play it because the thing is, I feel like I would play it. So I'm in my home office right now, and I'll probably take like you said you might let me borrow your Vive. I might take my computer out to the living room, but even then, like we have a lot of space in our house, but I don't know that I'm going to do room scale. I feel like I might play this game sitting. But I don't know if that's like the ideal. I don't know. Probably not the ideal way.
No.
But standing up and playing games has never really done it for me anyway. But I'll try it if it's the ideal way to play.
I would not play that game seated.
Okay.
No. Because there's times where it's like you literally have to crouch to get under, like, into a manhole or something. Like you have to like. It's wonderful.
Okay.
They didn't invent anything, but they created this like perfect package of VR gameplay and storytelling that I don't think people.
You know what? There are two games that kind of flow into that argument. The first is Super Mario World. Like you could argue that Mario 3 invented a lot, and Super Mario World built on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 10 out of 10. The other game that comes to mind is Resident Evil 3 Remake, which is also a 10 out of 10 for building on Resident Evil 2 Remake and correcting all of its flaws. Thank you, Asif. I agree with you. 10 out of 10.
So
I'm sorry. Did you say something, David?
Half-Life was a good game.
Like you got some Mumra the Ever living in you right now. You're just being evil, man.
I would at least have a pet doggo to ride out this coronavirus with.
Oh,
right now I just have sassy cats. They don't. That's
sassy
one of them.
Cats.
They don't necessarily want to snuggle either. So
no, I bet they want that 6 feet distance, man.
Yeah.
Lola is not. Speaking of sassy cats, Lola's not even running.
Longest nap of all time. If she were awake, she'd be in with you. I think
she's just over it, man. I've been sitting here so damn much. She's just like, ugh, she's gonna be in here all day.
She thought,
is this what you're going to do today? Is this all you're going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to sit in your office. You're going to work on
your computer.
Working on the stocks, buying and selling.
I sold stocks today.
Some of us need belly rubs, you know.
She was sitting on my lap for most of the day, but yeah, after dinner time, she was just like, see ya.
This is what, like, Lola's reality has finally come crashing down because she thought with you home all the time it would be nonstop belly rubs, but she's like, oh no, he's still working all the time? What is this? I'm going to bed.
There's a lot of that. But then there's like, I don't know. My dog knows when the stock market closes. So like
I bet she does.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, it's 4:00. It's playtime. She's like, it's like an hour after she eats, and she's like, okay, I took my nap. Now it's playtime. We play for about 15, 20 minutes, and then she's like, okay, I'm going to take another nap.
Man. One of my cats definitely knows when dinner time is now.
Mm-hmm.
And emails really loud to remind me.
Lola's belly rubs really peak in the evening. That's where she gets the couch time and all that good stuff.
My favorite Lola belly rub is when you're not only rubbing her belly, but she's got the Kong like a cigar, like a mafia member with the cigar.
Just, that's right. Belly rubs. We're gonna get them all.
Yeah,
get them all.
We're gonna find that van full of people hands, and they're gonna rub our bellies.
Yeah. So this isn't the end of the episode. We'll reconvene for more.
To be continued. Just put a little to be continued at the bottom. And then, like, when we come back, it'll be like, previously on Shackcast.
Previously on Shackcast. Events occur in real time. 24.
Oh.
Anybody see 24 before?
Well, if it isn't my evil twin brother, Lavarius.
You have a brother, Lavarius Moore.
Lavarius Morse.
Lavarius Morse.
It's just like, yeah, I'm the evil brother. I put thumbtacks on people's seats.
That is a dick move. Lavarius.
Yes, well, I'm Lavarius, so I do that shit. Fuck you.
Lavarius the Nefarious.
There you go. That's for the like little sound clip reel for the previously on Shackcast.
Okay, well, I'll be sure to edit all this together as I always do. I still have to post the last episode we recorded. I began editing it. I got to the first commercial break, and then I fell asleep on the couch.
And then it's gotta be like the bomb is inside of the, and then an explosion, and then like now
same bat time, same bat channel.
Hold on.
Now the conclusion to the Shackcast.
I feel like the Batman show from the 60s was a 10 out of 10. I love that show. Unironically. That show is funny as hell, dude. The Bat-2
Oh, no, it was very self-aware, and it was great for so many reasons. Eartha Kitt.
Yeah, Eartha Kitt. King Tut. I don't know where I fall on King Tut, like whether he was a good villain
Romero.
Oh, no.
Oh,
whoa. Oh, that's real-time shot of Canton, Ohio right now. Oh, 18.
There you go. This is for that.
Yeah.
Previously.
Mm-hmm.
Previously.
It'll be like, previously on Shackcast. I love it when a plan comes together.
It was me in a mask.
There he is.
With the dinosaur costume?
George Fafard, man.
Hannibal.
So yeah. This will be a good episode.
It should be. So wait, so what are we gonna? Are you going to add the next conversation onto this one?
Yes.
That's planned? Okay, got it. Okay.
And then this will be the previously on Shackcast part.
Got it.
Dwight Schultz. What happened to Dwight Schultz?
What didn't happen to Dwight Schultz?
His doppelganger, Dwight Schrute, took him out.
Mr. T. B.A. Paracas. Man, what a great show.
I hope this makes it into the. Are we gonna put video up of this?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh yeah,
that includes 18 clips,
so people can see my anger, my pure rage.
Yeah, I think this is.
And your mustache twirling.
Yeah, it's all my twirling. Yeah. Is it Blake or is it Lavarius? You don't know.
Oh God.
What was in that water, David? Certainly not any pubes.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.
You just got Lavarius.
Wait, if I have COVID, I request that Resident Evil 3 gets a 10 out of 10 in my memory. That's my dying wish. Would you deny me my dying wish, Blake?
I mean, you wouldn't know. You'd be dead.
But you would know, and it would eat away at you. Or Lavarius wouldn't give a shit, but you.
Lavarius is going to go in and hack
David
the system.
David L. Craddock Memorial 10 out of 10.
That's right.
Maybe.
It's too bad because any other episode, that'd be the title.
Seriously.
But not this one.
No. Okay. Well, that could be something we consider for the next part of this episode.
All right.
Maybe this is where we put the ad.
This is it. This is the break. You don't want to interrupt the debate with an ad. So
yeah,
this is the break.
We'll put 2 ads right here and then bam, right back.
You know, folks, if you like me and you like podcasts, then you need to listen to these podcasts that are on the thing.
Good one. That's one down.
There you go. On the Greenlit Podcast Network. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
Hey, Benito. I've been reading the Bible lately, and nobody ever told me how many talking dogs and wizard battles were in this thing.
Well, Chris, you know what I always say. If you can understand Star Wars, you can understand the Bible.
Apocrypals, part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
They say with age comes wisdom. Well, over here at the Cartridge Family, we only have one question. Who are they? Join 3 imperfect dads as they juggle kids, wives, and jobs while indulging in their favorite hobby, playing video games.
The Cartridge Family, a Greenlit Network podcast.
Okay.
2 giant unopened boxes of toilet paper. I'm sad.
Man, I've got a rare first edition unopened Charmin Black Lotus.
Is it the blue or the red?
It's a
colorless.
misprint.
Yeah, the misprinted Black Lotus.
Okay,
I wanted one of those so badly in 8th grade.
Wait, for continuity's sake, this is after a commercial break for another Greenlit Podcast Network commercial, right?
Okay.
So thanks to those 2 podcasts for not really being a sponsor, or just being on the same team, the Greenlit Podcast Network team.
Thanks for being delicious.
So yeah, thanks for being delicious podcast, savory podcast, free range podcast, high fructose corn syrup free. But yeah, there's some really good podcasts in the network. Like there's Retronauts, there's
I love Retronauts.
Go Nintendo podcast, Kevin Cassidy and his team.
Retronauts sounds like a sequel to the Psychonauts game.
What?
Retronauts sounds like a sequel to the Psychonauts game.
It does kind of, or maybe a prequel because retro, right?
Yeah, maybe a prequel. Right?
Is the word "naut" like used to describe exploration or something?
Yes, that's true. I'm kind of surprised no one started a Nintendo podcast called "Playing with Power." How's that not?
There's the Nintendo Power podcast now.
Like, the official one, but they don't update it regularly. It's just like after they make an announcement or release a game or something, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, the difference between the first part of this podcast and the second part, besides there being way more people on this call, David's internet quality has deteriorated further.
Oh, man.
He is now being throttled probably even harder. I think it's not even necessarily throttling. It's that their infrastructure is so poor that it's being maxed out. And
no, it is, yeah. Totally.
Because everyone's at home, everyone's pulling on the internet at the same time.
Everyone's yanking that internet crank.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Sony today. This is now Friday the 27th, right? We've reconvened after 2 days, with more time to give this game that we were in the middle of arguing about when we decided to cut it off. This time Lola's here. See? You see your head down there?
Hi, Lola.
Yes. Lola. Hi, Lola. Lola, do you hear me?
She can't hear you.
No,
Nope. She is here.
Also got headphones on.
Yeah, I've
definitely hear Lola.
Don't you start, Greg. Don't you start.
He called her. Who called you Honey Boo Boo this morning? He called her the Honey Boo Boo.
I've called her Hans Gruber, Count Dooku, right? All sorts of bad guy names. Why not?
Count Duper. Count Duper is right there.
Yeah, Count Dooku. It's like that whole, Michael Scott got from Daryl Philbin to Mr. Rogers. Yeah. It's a similar path for Lola nicknames, is all I'm saying. But a lot of them are founded in movie villains.
So I've used our 2 days of time off to do some soul searching, and I've given this a lot of thought, and this game is now an 11 out of 10.
Man.
Huh. I'm thinking 8 now after playing it.
7 grumples out of 11.
Oh, man.
After playing it.
No, this is what I want to hear the thoughts of people who have played it, particularly Sam, because he's actually spent more than 20 minutes with it. I think he's beaten the game.
No. I'm going to just ask you straight up, Sam.
Okay.
Is RE3 a 10 out of 10?
No.
Boom.
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
It's not. It's not. Unless, it's your personal 10 out of 10. In which case, sure. You can have personal 10 out of 10s, but.
Okay, could I ask you this, Sam?
Yeah.
If you compared it to every other Resident Evil game ever made, would this be a 10 out of 10 compared to them?
Okay, so the caveat here being I've not played every single Resident Evil game.
But you did play last year's RE2 remake.
I did play RE2.
How would you compare these two?
I personally preferred RE2.
Oh.
Because I feel that there's a more focus on the action in RE3 and less of a focus on puzzles and the layered exploring of the world. In terms of the police station in RE2, you very systematically like open it up, like it blossoms as you're exploring it. And you're like, oh, I got this key. I can go back over there. And now this area is a little bit more accessible. Whereas there's just a heavier focus on combat in RE3.
Do you think that's more the case with Carlos or across the board? Because Jill, I wouldn't say that's the case with Jill. Jill's more of like the survival horror character, whereas Carlos, like you can't even craft ammo. They give you a lot of ammo for your assault rifle.
I noticed that there was more just in the demo. That there was definitely more zombies, and the need to shoot them was higher. But the game also provided me a lot of ammo to do it. So I didn't feel like... I never felt like I was short on ammo or anything. But I did feel... And granted, this is only the demo. I did feel similarly that it was more... I guess Sam's using the term action-based. I viewed the term combat-based. But there's definitely more combat just right off the bat in the demo than I was used to in RE2. RE2, like, there was a lot of, like, oh, crap, there's that thing. I'm going to go in this room and get the hell away from it. And at least in what I played, it seemed like one of those scenarios where you were frequently confronted with them. But granted, I haven't played the full version.
That is true. I can appreciate that the police station, you're going through narrow corridors. So having one or two zombies makes sense. Whereas in RE3, you're in streets and wider alleys and shopping like areas. So having 3, 4, or 5 zombies makes sense there. But it just, I do wind up shooting significantly more than I probably ought to.
You definitely don't have to. Like if you look at the playthrough that I did for Greg today, I run out of ammo. You tend to be able to stock up on ammo until you get into a boss fight with Nemesis, and then you'll run kind of low for a while. So you're almost not starting from scratch, but you do deplete a lot of resources. The other thing is, Sam, I haven't seen your playthrough, Sam. Greg mentioned as he was looking through your footage that you weren't using the like explosive barrels or generators. Maybe you were, but those are designed for you to, conserve ammo. So you take the risk of luring more zombies close to, say, a barrel. You shoot it once, and then you'll take out like 3 or 4. And then Resident Evil 3, the original game, did have more action in it. In fact, Capcom said this remake would, because they are trying to stay true to the spirit of the original. There was more action.
Like I keep bringing up Half-Life Alyx during this debate, David, because I gave that a 9 out of 10. And like, here's 2 ways Half-Life Alyx is better than this game: ladders and explosive barrels. In Half-Life Alyx, I can grab the explosive barrel with both my hands. Granted, I don't have a gun arm, but I can at least grab it and put it somewhere. In RE, it's like, here's this tunnel. Here you go. Okay, I got all 20 of you, or however, probably 6 at best, around this barrel.
Well, it's a resource too, right? That's the whole point. Is you got to know when to use the barrel, right?
Yeah,
but so you don't just waste it on zombies.
And then the auto ladder. I'm gonna have to say that's another one of the.
It's not VR. You're not meant to be grabbing the ladder over and over. Also, you don't have to like physically struggle to load
you
guns.
Actually go up the
3.
ladder. Like you actually are controlling. This was very. I don't know. I'm just if I'm being nitpicky, because you have to be when we're talking about a 10 out of 10 game. There are a couple things where I thought, and granted, I've only played the demo where I was like, this is not. I didn't see as big of a jump from the previous RE Engine game as you were talking about.
No. RE2 had auto ladders too.
Yeah.
Because like, why hold a button to climb? Why do that? Is that fun? No, just go up or down and get it over with. The action and the strategy lies at what's waiting for you above or below the ladder.
I don't know.
All right.
The ladder tech, though.
all of that aside, going back to the talking about how this is a more action-based game, I'll give this Resident Evil credit for the controls being more approachable, but like the shooting mechanics are what totally convinced me this game is not a 10 out of 10, frankly. If I'm holding a gun down, I shoot the zombie once and then I shoot it right away again and it doesn't react and I lose the bullets and I'm locked onto that zombie. Like, that's not, like, at least that's what it felt like I was experiencing. Like, it felt like there was, like, I had to, like, wait for the zombie to react in order to be able to shoot them again and effectively do damage.
I agree with the pace. Like, you do shoot. I guess you're a little more deliberate with your bullets in an RE game, but that's kind of always been the case. When I was playing through it, I found myself, I don't know, from playing RE2 remake, I found myself shooting the zombies in the legs so they couldn't walk around instead of trying to kill them most of the time, right? I feel like that ends up being like a 3-bullet scenario versus what could be more bullets if you're trying to kill them.
I get what Blake is talking about, though. That's a change that they made. It might have been in RE7, although I haven't actually played all that, but it was in RE2. It's how the zombies react. They can play possum. Mm-hmm. The general rule of thumb that you find through experimentation is that when a zombie goes still, you wait like 3 seconds and then you shoot it. And if it doesn't jerk at all, like it's dead. But they can play possum now. It's not like the old games, Asif, you might remember, where when you see the pool of blood spread under a zombie, then it's dead and you know that's not going to get back up. Yeah. It's a little tougher now to gauge whether or not they're alive or dead.
Regardless, the gunplay mechanics felt slow and it felt dated to me. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, if we're talking about like bringing this to now, making this a modern game, that's like a really good remake, then I think you gotta speed up. It should be like homogenous? I should be like. I'm just saying I should be able to go blop, blop, blop. And if I've got like my gun on the zombie and it's locked on, I should just be able to go blop, blop, blop. And it's done instead of blop, 1, 2, 3, blop, 1, 2, 3, blop, 1, 2, 3.
You don't have to do that. Every gun has a different rate of fire. I don't understand the complaint at all.
Like, I only use the pistol in the demo.
So you didn't play long enough to find the shotgun, which is like 1 street away from where you start.
I played through the game to get the fire hydrant, like the fire extinguisher. Like, I played
the
through,
hose,
to get the hose. Like, and I thought that's what I was supposed to do. If there was other content that I was supposed to discover along the way, like, that didn't happen. Like,
that's a puzzle that you solved. That is where the demo is supposed to end, but you can just keep looking around. You missed the shotgun completely.
Okay, but like I found the red dot scope in the safe, and I found the bolt cutters like in the donut shop and stuff like that. I just thought that was all the area there was to explore. Like, I explored all those buildings that were opened up once that first fence comes down in the cut sequence.
I will say that I am kind of with Blake on this one in terms of how the gunplay feels. Resi does seem to be very, you need to be very slow and you be very certain of where you're shooting, which I felt that at times was an antithesis to the heavier focus on the combat, where I felt slightly more pressured to take more shots. I thought that, I was struggling at times. Struggling is probably not the right word to use, but it was more finicky,
methodical.
Perhaps.
It's just really methodical to me.
Yeah, but even still, like, methodical gameplay is still good.
I don't know. It's it's just slow.
But see, here's the thing: like, it kind of has to be, though, because that's the game. They tried to make it faster in 6, and everyone hated it, so they went back to the old school ways. Half-Life Alyx has to be slow because it's in VR, right? The enemies are actually ridiculously slow moving, but that's because it's
the character Alyx is slow moving. There's no run in Half-Life Alyx. You move at one pace. So some of the enemies are pretty quick. But not talking about Half-Life Alyx here. What my I think Blake's point where it lands with me is not necessarily the combat, not necessarily the fact that it's a methodical game where you have to plot out what you're going to do. It's the enemy AI is kind of wonky. Now, granted, I was playing a demo, but Sam, have you run into any points in the game that you would consider weird or?
In terms of the zombie AI, not necessarily weird. They do tend to lurch about quite a bit, making it difficult to land shots. So yeah, you do have to be more deliberate with your aiming.
Yeah, I mean that's just part of the game.
That is.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, no.
Let me explain that a bit. The AI.
Whoa.
The AI for the zombie.
No, you cannot. Let David talk.
Yeah, the AI for the zombie is so. This has been a thing since RE4, actually. There's like a director. Yeah, there's a director like in Left 4 Dead, kind of, where as you land more shots, the zombies intentionally lurch more to make them harder to hit.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. What I was saying wasn't the wonky AI, but that is just
it just
part of
felt
the game.
like it just felt like to me like I was like shooting something in an old PlayStation game or something like that. It felt dated. It felt like that didn't come to the future along with all of the visuals and control aspects of the game. I do appreciate the controls and being in a Resident Evil game being like modernized and rational, though. I did appreciate that. Like I was able to pick it up and play it, and that's the first time I've ever been able to do that with a Resident Evil game. So that was somewhere I'll give it credit for. It didn't look horrible. I don't think it's like
didn't look horrible. Oh my god! Come on, hold on a second. Like let's just be real. I played this shit on my ultra wide today. Gorgeous. This game's like one of the best looking games on PC. If we're gonna complain about it, it's not the graphics. It doesn't just look okay.
So is RE2.
I'm not complaining about the graphics.
RE2 won best graphics from Shacknews last year. It's like
I'm not complaining about the graphics. Like
you said it looked okay. I'm like no.
I'm not.
This game looks
merely okay.
The one disappointing thing about the graphics, I will say this, is that there was no hamburger at the beginning, so.
There's a pizza, though.
Yeah, no cheeseburger.
There's
a pizza.
Does that mean it won't repeat for best cheeseburger?
No, best cheeseburger this year.
We'll have to find a different one.
We should say hi to Ozzy. Ozzy came in.
We haven't said hi to anyone really, but there's been like
true.
yeah. So this is.
I mean, you got to hit the ground running, you know.
This is halfway into the podcast. Yeah, Ozzy's here now. He's our senior editor. He's out in LA or Long Beach in his house. Right, you're safe.
Safely distant. I got my walls boarded up. You know,
okay,
it's like
good stuff.
It's like Rainbow Six. You know, you just board up your walls right before everything begins.
3 of them though.
And then, we've been talking to Sam Chandler, our guides editor in Australia. He calls Resident Evil Resi.
Yeah, Resi. Is that
a lot of fans
Resi?
do? A lot of fans do. Yeah.
I think it's adorable.
It's an Australian thing.
We have Greg here reading something on the internet while hanging out with us. I don't really know. He's just kind of listening and browsing Amazon for toilet paper. But thanks, Greg. You're ahead of video. You've been watching a lot of the gameplay of this game, so I think that's where you kind of
an understatement. I've seen like the whole game almost twice. Yeah, basically.
So
up until like up to your number 4 play, David. That's the last.
You liked RE2 quite a bit, right, Greg?
Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah. And then, so you got David and Blake here back from the beginning of this episode. It's like is it like a double wide Shackcast? Like, what are we calling this?
It's a
the
double
ultimate
header.
Shack task.
It's a double decker Shackcast.
It's a double decker Shackcast.
Yeah.
This is a lumberjack match where like Blake and I are facing off, and if we go out of the ring, the other guys have to throw us back in.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So. But basically, the question is still, we all know what the question is here. Yeah, is Resident Evil 3 Remake a 10 out of 10? And so far, it's looking, I'm not convinced after playing it. That's a 10. Asif, it doesn't sound like you're convinced either.
I'm not.
And Sam's not convinced for sure.
Yeah, no,
Craig?
I like. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
I just wanted to talk to the graphics and animation just a little bit. I'm not too sure if, David, that you've seen it, but I did note that when the zombies are too far away, the animation gets replaced with a choppier, low frame rate version. So even if it is a physical zombie that you can shoot in the streets, if you're, I don't know feet, but if you're like 12, 15 feet away from them, they start to look a little bit framey. Which I thought that if there is just one zombie on screen, come on.
That happened. That was in RE2 and 7. I think it's a question of rendering. What happens? It's not so much replaced, but I know what you meant. Their animations are halved. It's weird, and I know this might sound like rationalization, but it's not. I think it looks kind of silly too, and I do think that they should like maybe make an effort to like render 1 or 2 rather than have them. I think it has kind of like a creepy kind of effect. I think it kind of gels with the atmosphere. It's unintentional, obviously, and totally subjective, but I kind of like it. But the important thing is that you can still hit them.
Now. I do want to bring up one terrible review in Shacknews history, Breath of the Wild, where the draw distance in the game and the frame rate in the Lost Woods were the reason that it was a 9 out of 10. This sounds kind of similar, David.
So there's precedent, you're saying, Asif.
That's horrible, stupid precedent.
But
Asif,
I've heard you say
we've said that
times,
shouldn't be the basis for that review. So.
I've heard Asif say multiple times that if he were to review it, it would have been a 10 out of 10.
That's a masterpiece.
Yeah, right. So like this boils down to then is like the subject's viewpoint on the game who's reviewing it. Right, that's the whole point. Because like Jason was 9 out of 10.
I think Disco Elysium, 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you didn't even, Sam, when you reviewed it, you didn't even pitch that to us.
No, because I knew that like
you thought Dikembe Mutombo was going to swat you down. Ozzy, you've been here since we since we instituted review scores, right?
I have. It from the very beginning, even back before we didn't review games at all, because we used to let the text speak for itself.
Yeah. What do you think about a 10 out of 10 at Shacknews and its possibility?
If I'm with every year, I'm starting to think that it's more and more possible, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Can I piggyback on that, Asif?
Yeah.
Ozzy, do you think a 10 out of 10 means perfect?
I used to, but I'm more in line with what the late Andrew Yoon used to think a 10 out of 10 was, and it's basically genre changing. Like it's basically game changing. Like it changes the way we think of games. Like if I would have made a case for a 10 out of 10 anywhere, I mean, based on Asif's review, I might have said Half-Life Alyx. Maybe what would have been like 10 out of 10 because that's going to change the way people think of VR. I would have, if he had made the convincing argument for Breath of the Wild, I would have said the same thing because I think Breath of the Wild changes the way we talk about like a lot of games as well. So I could have gotten on board with both of those.
You know what game in retrospect that I look at and I'm like, we didn't give it as high of a score as we could have, and you actually reviewed it. Rocket League.
Yes. Yeah, that's not my proudest moment. I gave Rocket League an 8.
Yeah, like
and in hindsight, like that's not an 8.
How is Rocket League not a 10? That game's like it might be perfect.
Yeah.
It's like it's a game that I look back on now where I'm like, damn.
And I kind of messed up on that one.
I think these games, when you line them up next to RE3, there's not really. I think RE2, David, is more. Or I think RE7 was the beginning of that. RE2 was really this combination of the engine and the story coming together. RE3 was
you
this
saw the start of something good with RE7.
Yeah, and I feel like RE3 is like this refinement, but it's not nearly as holy crap to me as RE2 was when I played that last year. I think that's 1 point against it, I would say.
So,
and that's not the fault of RE3.
Go ahead, let Blake jump in here.
So I think one of the things that all 10 out of 10s have in common is we've had time to really think about them a long time, you know, like Ozzy gave Rocket League an 8, now he's like, oh, today I'd give it a 10. And that's because it stood the test of time, it's improved, and like it's still around, you know.
Hasn't this been
the
what
same reason?
I'm sorry, Blake. Hasn't this been what Asif's been pitching with the 10 out of 10 club?
Yeah.
We've talked about like retrospective 10 out of 10s.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that's the way to give them, if we're going to give them out, is be like, look, this game has proven like it's gone above and beyond. Like, it's so hard to say like this new game that like we've only been given this short amount of time with is like truly worthy of something like that. In general, I think that's a hard thing to say, no matter what you're playing, you know, whether it's a AAA game or it's like an indie title that you just picked up. But over time, you know, history kind of decides what a 10 out of 10 is.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think Blake, you or Asif said something similar the other night to what Ozzy said, where, you know, a 10 out of 10 should be genre changing. I think that the subtext there is revolutionary or innovative. And I think where I come from, I'm the weird guy. Like Sam can attest to this. I love Dark Souls 2. Nobody else loves that game. But to me, like, I think iteration is often overlooked. I loved RE2 Remake, and I would not have given that a 10. I would not have, like, this conversation would have happened with RE2 last year. But when I look at what I really like about RE3, you know, replay value is so essential to RE games. It has been since the beginning, right? Like, you beat the game the first time, but then Capcom, like, they sneak in infinite ammo weapons that you can only unlock if you beat the game in like, you know, an hour or an hour and a half, and you only save X amount of times. I look at RE2, both the original and the remake, and especially the remake, actually, the B scenarios were not nearly as distinctive to me. RE3, I think what I enjoy most about it, besides Nemesis, so I think is like a step up over Mr. X in every way, is the replay value in that game is just incredible. I think that's an area, I don't want to put words in Sam's mouth, but he hasn't really gotten to experience that yet. But I've played this game, I'm on my 5th replay now, and even though the campaign is the same, the additional modes of Nightmare and then Hell, where they remix enemy and item locations, and you earn points through completing in-game challenges to buy your infinite ammo weapons or your artifacts that like boost your damage or health regen. I'm having so much fun replaying this game, more than I'm having replaying any other Resident Evil game or any game. Replay value has always been important to me since I was a kid. You know, I only got new video games for Christmas and my birthday, so I replayed games a lot because I kind of had to. I would wring every last drop of entertainment value out of them. And so I put replay value above almost anything else for me. And this game's replay value is just tremendous. I mean, in that respect, RE2 does not hold a candle to this game. No other Resident Evil, except maybe 5, where you can like upgrade all your guns and unlock infinite ammo versions of every single gun, does replay value better. The only strike against Resident Evil 5 is that it's fucking terrible in every other way. But yeah, that's just kind of the point I wanted to make. I think everyone's made good points, and we can continue the discussion. I'm willing to concede the 10 because I think everyone's made good points. I just wanted to kind of get more into the replay value and why I think that's so important to me, and I think important to the genre. I don't think RE3 will be genre changing or genre defining, but I do think that if RE2, RE1 kind of started survival horror, as Capcom termed it. RE2 elevated it. The original RE3 was a step back. This is a step forward beyond anything else they have ever done with this franchise or in survival horror that I've seen, unless you go to the other extreme for games like Amnesia or PT, where you're not meant to fight back at all. But that's, that I've kind of said my piece, so I'll cede the floor.
I can chime in here. It's that like David and including me, like we've played the original games, so like the games so that it's going to resonate bigger with us. But at the same time,
I think that's very true.
Sam has never played 3. Have you played 3, Sam?
No, sir, I have not.
Yeah, so he's not going to have nearly the amount of like appreciation for it as like someone who's played the 99.
Donovan loved RE2 last year, and he never played the original. So
Yeah,
I will say I hope we can put a pin in that idea when we come back to this conversation for Final Fantasy in a few weeks.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
oh man. Yes, I'm just elated about that. Oh,
We're probably
boy.
going to record this exact same podcast with Greg.
Well,
let me jump in one more. I played the demo, and the demo seems good. It seems a little too easy, but like, well, I don't know. I have to play the whole game. The demo's 50 minutes of what I'm told and read is a 50-hour game. So
I'm glad that Greg brought this up, though, because there's an interesting spectrum that we can analyze here. Like, Greg and I loved the original Resident Evil games, or at least we played them. Sam hasn't. Donovan hasn't. Asif, you've played the originals as well.
Yes.
Again, as I stated the other day, I did not really care for the original RE3. This is less, and I get into this in the written review. RE2 Remake was a remake. This is more of an imagining. I like this game in large part because it cuts like 70% of the original RE3. It is so much better in every way. I did not really like that original game. Whereas in RE2,
that's such an interesting logical argument.
It is.
It's like, this remake is so good because it's nothing like the other game.
It sounds like they've cut a lot of the fat.
They have. Like,
it's interesting.
Like a lot of. Go ahead, Blake.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've already like talked about this stuff and discussed it, and I'm like hoping that's the case because I've also read your review several times.
Here's the other.
Now, so I'm like not sure if it's something we've talked about.
We did talk about it, but I feel like the removal of. Like, here's an example. Like, when I was remaking Briefcase Level 5, there was a section of the level that I couldn't do because the hit detection was different in Super Mario Maker 2, Game of the Year last year, and Super Mario Maker 1 on a Wii U that no one gave a crap about, right? So what did I do? I remade it. I did something different in that place. I think just kind of truncating a story and removing it, or cutting something out and kind of removing it, is lame. Like that. There could have, from a storytelling perspective, there could have been something else there instead of just removing it, dude. Don't you think that's
I'm talking more in terms of gameplay. The story beats, just as they were last year with RE2, the story beats are largely the same as in RE3.
I'm talking about that boss battle.
They are much better realized.
Yeah, why didn't they just make the boss battle better? I think is what Asif was saying.
Because why? This is the whole thing, right? Why do you
Nemesis
have to stand on tradition and ceremony? Yeah, Nemesis is the boss. This is Jill's and Nemesis's story. The other boss just got in the way. Remakes, to me, are an opportunity to correct what you did wrong before. They don't have to be a polygon by polygon recreation. That's a remaster. If you want to remaster something, you have that option. But a remake is an opportunity. Look, Final Fantasy VII Remake, did that have real-time combat? No, it had a bunch of bullshit, turn-based, arbitrary encounters like every other JRPG in the 90s, which is why it was honestly pretty terrible and why I'm actually interested in playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Greg, did you think the original Final Fantasy VII was terrible?
No.
Greg hates everything.
But at the same time, though, like, I went back and I've played it on the Switch, and the game doesn't hold up well. Like,
of course it doesn't. But
but for 97,
the idea of something like random combat, like random encounters, like that stuff doesn't age well. Like that doesn't hold up anymore.
No. Even that's the thing about JRPGs from back in the 90s. Like, on the game box, they'd say 90 hours of gameplay. Let's be real. 70 of that is grinding because you can't beat the current boss to get to the next area. But let's be real, I view, like, I don't know, again, anecdotal, but my wife, Amy, loves JRPGs. She couldn't play Final Fantasy VII back in the day. She doesn't like turn-based. She's interested in the remake because you have the option to do real time. I don't think that you have to stand on tradition and do everything that an original game did if you feel that it doesn't fit. And I think RE3 Remake is a much tighter game than the original.
If that's the case, they should have improved the gunplay, I feel.
David, can you talk to the effect of like the story a bit, because I didn't find the story that compelling in RE3. I kind of felt that I knew what was coming along the path.
Did you play the first one, Sam, or the remake of the first one on the GameCube?
I've never played RE3 before in my life.
We just established that a few minutes ago.
No, what about the first Resident Evil? The first one, or the remake of the first one?
I've played 7, the remake of 2, and now the remake of 3.
Okay, so yeah, then again, that's another interesting thing because he's not attached to Jill Valentine whatsoever. It's the first time he's ever seen this character.
Yep.
No, so I can speak to that. To me, as a writer, a novelist, I really get into this. Character and plot are two different things. Plot is a dirty word. Yes, the story in Resident Evil games is predictable. Forget about that. I get into this in the written review. I really liked the character development of Jill and Carlos individually. And Jill and Carlos building this, they started out as mutual kind of distrust, which built up to trust, which built up to respect. And I thought that arc was satisfying for me. It wasn't really there in the original game.
I did like their relationship and where that went. But I did, the actual overarching story of what was going on. I was like, it felt very similar. And I was able to anticipate what was happening. I guess maybe I was expecting, I don't know. Not every story needs a twist, but I thought there was going to be some unveiling. I was like, oh, damn. I didn't realize that was the case.
We have like Nikolai's kind of unveiling a little bit.
Nikolai does some new stuff. Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, Nikolai, like the first time you meet him, he's not a nice dude.
He's an asshole.
Yeah. So they had an opportunity there to really subvert what I was expecting him to do, but I felt like it just kind of went with what I anticipated would occur.
If you want to, I'm glad you brought this up because this is a fascinating conversation. If you want to get into like archetypes, if you look at Mikhail was kind of like Carlos's shoulder angel. Nikolai was the shoulder devil. Carlos could have gone one of two ways there. In fact, so could Jill, because Nikolai's whole thing is you don't have the guts to pull the trigger. You're not a survivor. You won't do what needs to be done. Carlos, I think one advantage that the RE engine brings is that look in his eyes when he realizes that the company he works for are the bad guys. I thought was really cool. Instantly, he loses all respect for basically all of his teammates except for Tyrell, who is actually a good dude too. In fact, this is just me. I wasn't really sure for a little while which direction Tyrell leaned, and I kind of liked that they made him ambiguous. I thought he was like Tyrell. You go into Umbrella, he says the vaccine's this way. I almost thought he might be like a Nikolai Jr. and that maybe he's going to turn on Jill, but he actually ends up being a pretty good dude. But that, that's subjective. That's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Tyrell was very cool. I liked his character.
It's interesting too, Sam, because in like, for example, I used the original RE2, not the remake. Like finding out that like Sherry was William's daughter, it was like a big deal, and you didn't really put that together right away. It took a lot longer. They did it a lot faster in the remake, but in the original one, it took you like you had to go through 70% of the game before you figured that out. Same thing goes for like Ada betraying you. Like that was a big end twist. Like you had a suspicion, and if you followed if you followed the notes of the journals from the first Resident Evil, like the first one, it mentions one of the researchers having a girlfriend named Ada, but like you don't put it together until the very end. So they did have those twists in the original games, but it was just a lot since the original games were so much longer in terms of scope because they had to be slower and had more puzzles and that kind of stuff. Lots of back and forth. David had to watch the whole Let's Play of RE3 to pull clips from. And when you're scrolling through that at 10 times speed and all Joe's doing is going back and forth, because that's what you did in those games. You got a key, went over here, got another key, went back. And that's not necessarily bad. It's just old game design is all.
This is just me. I just wanted to throw in, because I think Sam brings up some good points. As a Resident Evil fan, I've always appreciated the stories for being the dumb but fun B-movie schlock that they are, like kind of like fast food. But Capcom, to me, actually deserves a bit of a kudos, because I think the storytelling in the last two games, 2 and 3, has been a lot of fun. Like William Birkin, the first time he appears when you play as Claire, he has to like physically stop himself from attacking Sherry because he's trying not to kill his daughter, but this monster's taking over him. In fact, the reason he kills Mr. X in Claire's campaign that's like his last act of humanity. Like Mr. X is threatening Sherry. This guy's after my kid. I'm going to kill him. But after that, he's gone. Like the human is gone. The monster is all that's left. The storytelling in these games is actually like improved by leaps and bounds. Granted, it had nowhere to go but up. But I don't know. Like again in 3, Sam, just for me, plot aside, it is predictable. But I thought the character development was really well done in 3.
I think I'll
agree with you on that one there, David.
I think you also need to take into account that when you look at a game, when I look at a game, when I review it, I try to look at like what does the game do? What is the game trying to do, and does it do it well? And like you said, like I know the complaint for Resident Evil was that it's relatively slow. But Sam, I watched you like get hit by zombies multiple times and like get slaughtered by by Nemesis because like you just couldn't react fast enough. If the game was any faster, I think it would be actually a bad game because you wouldn't have time to react to anything. You just get like chomped on consistently and stuff.
In Resident Evil, you are supposed to be weaker than literally everything else,
Yeah.
But like
it's not Quake.
I mean, if the game did what it set out to do, is it a survival horror game? Yes. Does it improve upon the last sequel? Yes. Like it sounds like everything, like David said, everything's been improved from RE2. And if it's a good game, and by the looks of it, from Dave's reviews, I didn't see any bugs, any glitches, or anything like mechanically wrong with it. Like, and that's pretty good.
Asif posted that clip. Asif posted that clip, and you know what? That might not have been from the demo. Like maybe that can happen. My point was I played it like a little over 20 hours now, and I've never seen anything like that. But I guess my main point was that like we talk a lot about, to Ozzy's point, which I loved his definition of what a 10 out of 10 is, and I agree completely. But I think oftentimes genre defining too often is synonymous with revolutionary, whereas I'm someone who actually values iteration more. It's really hard to come up with a new idea, let alone execute on it. I think it can be even harder to take what really worked. Last year's RE2 remake is already beloved. It outsold RE7 in like 2 weeks. But to me, they improved on a lot of it. Now, the fluctuation between action and survival horror, I think a lot of that can be subjective too. Like, as Sam, as you mentioned, the environments overall in RE3 remake are much bigger, like the streets. Like you can shoot a lot of zombies, but you don't actually have to. You can get around them. You can use the explosive barrels. There are actually more options in terms of, like, to me, that's what survival horror breaks down to. Every moment, every step you take is a choice, and every decision you make has consequences for better or worse. Because it's much more open, like they kind of should throw more zombies at you because you have more ways to deal with them or not deal with them. And either option has pros and cons. I mean, I'm in nightmare mode right now. In the beginning, in the first area, I got chased down the street by like a pack of 10. And there's no way you can kill all of them. I'm no exaggeration. It's called nightmare mode for a reason. I can only imagine what hell mode, the highest difficulty is like. But like that was the game's way of telling you, like, you cannot win here. Do not bother shooting, run, and find a way around them. And I like that. I like that a lot.
And also, if you look at like Resident Evil 3 has a lot of really nice biomes and surprisingly a lot of color. The one thing I hated about 7 is that the whole game looked like one palette of like yellow slosh.
Even RE2 remake was kind of like washed out in comparison.
Yeah.
Like this game really pops. This is a good looking game.
Yeah, everything in Resident Evil 2 is very dark and like grimy and like
I liked
shades of
that.
like gray.
I actually enjoyed the dark and grimy police department.
I did too.
Oh no, that's nothing wrong with that.
It fit the environment. It fit the environment perfectly. But there are little touches. Asif, I'll have to show you this. So Sam, you know the first boss fight of Nemesis where you fight him like at the top of that construction site?
Yes, sir.
And it burns. Yeah. After you leave that construction site, if you stand there and look up at the construction site, the fire actually spreads and you'll see more smoke going. Like the fire eats that building if you just stand there and watch it, which is kind of a cool little touch, I thought.
Yeah, there's a nice touch to detail in like the environmental storytelling. So just speaking to Resident Evil 2, one of the things I appreciated most from it was the police station sections where I was in there discovering things and working around. So that shift in Resi 3 to having, what was it? Maybe four or five different locations with a less focus on getting this item to going over here and figuring out this puzzle didn't gel with how I like to play Resis and what I appreciate in them, which is why for me, it's not a personal 10. Because I do like those things. I thought that more puzzles I would have enjoyed that more.
The consensus that I'm hearing seems to be this is an excellent game, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna make the. It's not gonna make the. Or we're not taking the plunge into 10 out of 10 territory with it. So I'm thinking.
But why though? Is that just because we have a consensus of like it's a good game, but it's not amazing, and we all don't love it? Is that like? I'm just trying to think of like why exactly.
I don't think enough people agree that it is a 10 out of 10. From just like taking into consideration, like we've all taken an opportunity to play it. I have my own reasons for not like thinking the game is a 10 out of 10 before and after playing it, just based off of what I've like read in David's review in both the drafts that he sent me, and playing it myself, speaking to Sam, who's played it himself, speaking to Asif, who has also played the demo, talking to Ozzy, who is just I don't think yeah, just here is unbiased moderator, and then there's Burkleton, and it's just like, who cares how you think or feel?
But I feel like the two people who've played the game though, like one has been a lifelong like fan of it, and the other one is like basically just playing it. Like I feel like
I think that's irrelevant when you're talking about a game. You're talking about the game.
Yeah,
like
I asked Sam a very simple question, and I asked Ozzy a simple question, and I think between their answers and how I personally feel about my playthrough of the demo and Blake's personal playthrough, and the fact that David is an RE super fan, and then of course he would want to give this game a 10 out of 10.
No. See, that's honestly, and I'm not upset here, but that's honestly why I even hesitated to like bring this to Asif and Blake in the first place, because I don't think that's fair. To be honest, I did not really care for RE3, and I said last year if I had reviewed RE2 remake, I would not have given it a 10. And honestly, everyone on the staff, Ozzy, how long have I been like hyped for Resident Evil 2 remake? How long did I just like? I would.
Oh my God, you were going on and on about
railroad conversations to talk about Resident Evil 2 remake. Yeah. So anyone who watches this game that I like it that much means a lot. What's that?
Anyone who watched us on Twitch back in December during our Game of the Year stream, they remember how excited you were about Resident Evil 2 and getting to show us all why you love it so much.
I've been told you numerous times that I expected this game from me to be like a 7 or 8. I expected it to be more of the same. The fact that
you
it's
were
not
you
from
were
me, I think is significant.
Yeah.
No, you were not jazzed about it when they announced this. When they announced that they were remaking 3, you were not all that excited.
I was like, well, Nemesis is a neat character. Otherwise, fine. You know.
I think it's comparable to like
seriously.
It's like going into an Avenger, it's basically like what if you've never seen any of the MCU movies ever, and then you all of a sudden go to see Endgame, you're gonna be like, okay, like it was all right, like you know what I mean, because you don't have any of that connection with any of the development of the characters, where they're from, what they do, you know, who they are. Like you're gonna have like a really crummy or a lackluster experience compared to someone who's watched all of them.
Well, to that end, Greg, I do want to say, I don't want to leave here with David thinking I didn't enjoy Resi 3, because I really enjoyed my time with Resi 3. Like, I am looking forward to that replay value that he's spoken to, and I've seen a little bit of it in my next playthrough. I think that's a fantastic quality of it, and yeah, for a lot of people, the greater focus on the combat is going to add a lot more tension with how they decide how to manage their ammunition and how they interact with the different scenarios, and the shift in environments is way better. And again, I'm so thankful you don't spend hours in the sewer. So that's great.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I'm not like, it's not like I'm mad at David for giving this game a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. I think this is a good conversation to have from time to time in general. Like, something's gonna get at a 10 out of 10 maybe someday eventually, but like, yeah, I feel like it needs to be scrutinized, because I feel like I don't know. A 10 out of it's just one of those things. It's too rare of a gem, like a true 10 out of 10.
But that day is coming. I feel more confident about that than I ever have before. That it's gonna come with either Final Fantasy, it's gonna come with Cyberpunk. It could be with something that we don't even know about yet. But it's coming someday.
Yeah.
If you all had played Disco Elysium,
every game has that potential, right? Any game that hasn't made the market yet has that potential to do it. It's just gonna I think
we all got to be on board.
We're all gonna know it when it happens.
Yeah, we're all gonna get in here and go.
I think it would, if we have a conversation like this when we're about to give a 10 out of 10 to a game, and there are multiple people who have played it, I'd like to believe that it would be unanimous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to add to the definition. It's got to be unanimous.
Here's the thing. I think it could be unanimous. Like Asif, I would have given Breath of the Wild a 10 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we might have maybe nitpicked different cons. Like, I hated the Divine Beasts. I thought they were terrible. I thought they were boring as hell. Worst part of that game. But I still would have given it a 10. So it can be unanimous, but we might come to the table with like different pros and cons that how we arrived to that verdict. You know what I mean?
Like I said, it's like also different people reviewing the game. I mean, for David, maybe it really is a 10 out of 10. So why is it's open up in a broader spectrum? So why can't David give it a 10 out of 10 if it really is a 10 out of 10 to him subjectively? Because that's what reviews are, right? They're subjective takes on games.
You're just here to cause problems, Greg.
I'm here.
You're just here, you're like, I'm gonna just browse Amazon and cause problems.
I'm not browsing.
Why can't people just post whatever they want on Shacknews whenever?
That's all I'm saying is that if reviews truly are subjective.
This is the problem, because Greg is coming in halfway through this podcast. The problem is, Greg, we post this game to 10 out of 10. Wickus replies with, so here's a list of games that we're better than, and it's every 9 out of 10.
And then it's like, I think we need to brace ourselves for that whenever that day comes.
And then it's like you said, Awesome, it's like almost two different people reviewed the game.
Yes,
it was a perfect comeback.
People review games, and it's almost like review scores are stupid to begin with, and the only reason we do it is Metacritic.
But there's also integrity to it. There's integrity to giving something a 10 out of 10. Like, even if we give a game a 10 out of 10 and someone else wants to give the next game a 10 out of 10, like, it's going to be scrutinized just as much as that first game.
Exactly. And the closest I've been to giving a 10 out of 10 recently was Tetris Effect. I think that game was damn near perfect. But, it didn't have multiplayer. Mm-hmm. It's a Tetris game that doesn't have multiplayer. It's like, you know what?
Yeah, but like, if it wasn't designed to have multiplayer, why do we fault it for that? If that makes sense.
Because it's about the perfect game. It's about finding Super Mario World. It's about finding Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 or 1 or 3 or Star Fox 64, which David says isn't a 10 out of 10.
That is not a 10 out of 10. Too short, and you can't save. Not a 10 out of 10. 9
that's
out of 10.
Clearly someone who hasn't beaten it on the tough path. You haven't got the good ending in Star Fox 64, and it shows.
Look at it. Look at it. It's a 9. It's
the
a
good
9 out of 10
ending in that is worth the pain in the ass to get it.
Guys, I'm going to take something back here. I think there are 10 out of 10s on Shacknews.com, and I think it's all of you guys.
Yeah.
I think you guys are the real 10 out of 10.
I think this is the peak of the Resident Evil remakes, though. Like, this is the peak of that. Like, Asif will even contest that, and David will even contest that, like, back in the 90s.
I don't know. There are going to be people that are super stoked for a remake of 4 whenever that time comes.
But, like, 4 is the current game, though. That's the problem. Like, it's the same mechanics and, like, all the stuff that they're
aware of that, and I'm sure they're going to think of some really cool way to remake it.
Well, Blake won't like it because the pistol fires too slowly. So.
I mean, maybe they'll make it fun. I don't know. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Resident Evil 4? Resident Evil 4?
We'll have to wait and see if they make a fun Resident Evil game.
Oh, you broke David. You did it, Blake. Good job.
I just love it. I think RE4 is probably the best Resident Evil game ever. So if they remake RE4, it'll probably be the best.
Yeah, that's going to be the opposite problem they have, because with RE3, they remade what a mediocre RE game. With RE4, they have the challenge of remaking the best one in the series.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that was.
I think they're going to wait.
How they approach that.
I feel like they're going to wait. They're going to do RE8 next, and then when the next generation of consoles has a couple of units out there, then they'll do an RE4 remake.
The Code Veronica remake, right, David?
You know what? Next. They run the same risk they did back in the day of putting out too many of the same things. As much as I like Code Veronica,
exactly.
I think they should move on. I think they should move on to 4.
David, this is deja vu. A lot. This is deja vu. RE2 and RE3 back to back, and then here's RE2 and RE3 back to back, and it's almost like too much.
Well, yeah, you know what? And these remakes followed each other by 15 months, and it was like 19 months in the late 90s. Except here, there's a flip-flop. As much as I love RE2, for the replay value alone, I prefer 3, which, again, I did not expect to arrive at that verdict at all. But here we are.
David, what I liked about Resi 7 were the various side DLC or missions, like where you had to escape the bedroom, or I think it was Ethan Must Die. That was brutal. There's nothing like that in RE3 at the moment, is there? It's just the replay comes from the campaign.
Yes, and I might have mentioned this, but if you didn't catch it, that's okay, because there's a lot of people in here. I have not played more than like an hour of 7, and it's not because I didn't like it, it's because it came out at a very busy time in my life, and I just haven't been able to finish it yet.
Okay.
So I can't really speak to that, but I think one thing that I'm looking forward to is last year, I think it was only 1 to 3 months after RE2 came out, that Capcom released free DLC. So we might be getting something like that for 3. At least in the long.
I doubt it. 3. Thanks to COVID-19.
Yeah,
delayed or canceled with everything else.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And to remind us of all of our troubles.
Oh man, that brought reality down real heavy.
Sorry.
Here's something I'm curious about. Resistance.
Different game.
Is it a different game?
Yeah, yes. I'm not considering. They're separate. Files to download.
They are. I wanted to mention that to you, Blake, because I mentioned this to Asif, but so Resistance doesn't even launch from within Resident Evil 3. It's like a separate install, separate file, everything. I
it
thought
seems like a game that comes with the purchase of RE3.
It is. I was like, the analogy for me is like, how like Doom 2016, you clicked multiplayer and then it launched a separate executable. This is the executable is separate to begin with, so I think I'm going to have to write another review. In fact, I've tried to play Resistance several times today. I guess the servers, I thought I read something from Capcom that they were going to bring press servers online, but I guess I have to wait until the game goes live on Monday, so that's a separate review.
They might have times of day where the press servers are up.
So
they might. Oh, Asif, I forgot to tell you. Well, let me mention this, because Asif, you and I talked a lot about this in Quake Champions. One of the drawbacks to that game was that you couldn't go into the map on your own, right, with bots, because you could only play online and you were going to get throttled. In this game, there's actually a practice mode. You can run around the maps as much as you want and learn them. I think that's kind of a cool thing.
That is good.
I think the gameplay, from what I tried in that practice mode, is actually kind of clunky. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it, but I like the fact that you could go into a map and kind of get the lay of the land before you're thrown into a live environment. I thought that was cool.
So 10 out of 10 next week, Resident Evil Resistance conversation. I'll mark my calendar.
So. You have to press a button to open a door instead of just like nudging it or bursting through it like you do. I kept running headfirst into doors, like when I'm getting chased by zombies and like running into doors.
So I think they did that on purpose, because one of the things that David says in his review, and I've noticed that the game is about 2 hours shorter than Resident Evil 2 Remake. So, if you, I didn't remember the Order 1886 had a huge controversy because the game was 5 hours long, and that was it. There was no multiplayer. There was really no replayability. They got railed, and I think it was smart for them. I think they originally were going to be 2 separate releases, but they looked at the amount of content that was in RE3 and said, we should probably. I don't think people are going to spend $60 on this and spend $60 on Resistance. we should probably just give the people who buy Resident Evil 3 Resistance and go from there. I think that's why they did it, because the game, like I said, there is replay value, David, but the game is.
And there was no replay with the order. Basically, the order is 5 hours and you're done. That's not a $60 game.
This there are unlockable modes, and also, Greg, I make the point again. The point of Resident Evil games is to go back and beat them as fast as possible. Eventually, I can beat the RE2 remake in like an hour 45 minutes. You know, so.
Well, I look forward to this conversation again in about a week with Final Fantasy VII. I think it's a great time for games, though, if we're having this conversation. Like,
you got a new Doom, a new Animal Crossing, and a new Half-Life within 3 days of each other. And then a week later, a new Resident Evil. And then a week later, a new Final Fantasy. This is an amazing time. This is truly an amazing time for video games.
Couldn't come at a better time either.
Exactly. In a sense, it doesn't come at a great time because a lot of people are experiencing financial hardship right now. So it's not like who can afford $240 of video games right now. So I think there's that element of it. But in another sense, like if you can afford a game, there's some great ones to escape in for a very long time. You know, like Animal Crossing, that game.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Animal Crossing on Nintendo Switch until the next Nintendo console comes out.
Yeah.
So, like,
absolutely.
When there's games like that coming out right now, yeah, it is a great time.
Wait, so you were playing the GameCube one for 10 years before you played?
I've played
3DS,
the 3DS version.
Oh, there was a 3DS
for years.
version. Okay.
I played. That's probably my most played 3DS game, and I only really stopped playing my 3DS because the Switch came out. So there was this gap in time from when the Switch came out to when Animal Crossing came out on Switch, where I wasn't playing Animal Crossing. But now I'm back every day, and it's delightful.
So I just want to add one thing before we sign off here. I want to say thank you to Asif and Blake for letting me, for kind of rolling with the idea to record this for public consumption in the first place. And also for playing the game and talking about it with me, and to Sam, Greg, and Ozzy as well. Thank you for everything you've added. I hope the audience enjoys this conversation, because I genuinely really have. It was very insightful.
It's probably the most sincere thing we've done on this podcast ever, or the most serious.
At the beginning, I have my rant where I implore people to vote for Bernie Sanders.
That's also pretty sincere.
It is.
It is.
Infinite money. They're just printing money. They're like, let's just print infinite. No health care. You're going to pay for it. But here's some infinite money for the stocks. Like,
remember, socialism doesn't work until it does.
I just want to green screen you into the restaurant booth in Seinfeld, though, and just have this conversation.
Infinite money.
Like David stirring his coffee.
Healthcare. You guys all deserve healthcare.
Thank you.
Right? I believe that for every single one of you.
Sorry, Sam. Right? Doesn't work in capitalist society.
Not
allowed to happen.
All right.
What cute, adorable word do you call healthcare in Australia, Sam?
Out you go, bye-bye. No, I have no idea.
Out you boba, mate. You're gonna get your out you boba.
Oh, you know what? I just realized.
See your Dakiwaki.
I just
your primary caregiver is your Premi Care.
I just realized why this game isn't a 10 out of 10 for Sam, because they cut the giant spiders. I feel like if those would have made the cut, Sam would have felt right at home, like, oh, giant spiders. This game is
they made those guys pretty spidery.
This is a spider.
Do you kill
those guys pretty spidery though,
or do you just coexist with them?
I think that people in Australia are spiders. Like, they're spider people.
That's why I'm not a webcam man. I'm hiding all my arms.
A webcam? You wouldn't have a webcam if you were a spider.
We've met you before.
Yeah.
That was very hard to keep my arms in. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
it's still the best. The best beer pour I've ever seen in my life was
they needed to fucking pour that
Yard House. Sam getting exactly 1 pint of beer.
I sent him my pictures of beer when I go out. I'm like, is this acceptable? And he always says no. Send it back.
He's not giving you enough beer.
No.
He's really gotten to the bottom of it. But you know what? We got the final laugh because Yard House is closed probably.
Oh, man.
No, they got bailout money, I'm sure. I'm sure they got bailout money because if there was one thing that we needed to keep in our society, it was Yard House.
I'm worried about Denny's.
I
think Denny's is going to be.
Cheesecake Factory can't pay their April rent.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
No, Cheesecake Factory just said they won't pay their April rent.
Yeah, they said they won't. And their stock went up on that news. I was like, this company's bankrupt and the stock's going. I'm like, what?
Oh, there's no big loss if we lose Denny's. Denny's sucks. It's a terrible place. It's a terrible franchise.
I'm talking about Cheesecake Factory here. But yes, look, Denny's might go under too.
No, they'll get bailout money.
Denny's is not like
there's
it's
no
not
big
even,
loss if we lose Denny's.
Ozzy, Denny's on a good day is not in my top 20 places I want to eat. But those times where there's nothing else, the times where there's been nothing else for me to eat, Denny's has been there.
It's our Waffle House in the West Coast because we don't have Waffle House.
You got to understand, Ozzy. Like, go to hell.
Andy's son. That's it. That's what we're saying.
And period.
No, like Denny's is like the only place open. Like when I have insomnia and I'm gonna go ride somewhere, I want to go get coffee and some French fries. It's like the only place to go at like 3 a.m. where I can actually use Wi-Fi.
You gotta find yourself a 24-hour IHOP.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, that's what it's about
we
here.
We don't have IHOP.
That's it. No. That's what it is. Ozzy likes IHOP. Their fries are trash at IHOP.
I don't know. Who eats the fries at IHOP?
That's my point. Denny's has stuff that you would not eat in the morning. Like they have other
Denny's has stuff I wouldn't eat anytime.
That's fair too. But
Ozzy, do you want to go? Do you want to go to the downtown Oakland IHOP at 4 a.m. with me? Because you're gonna see some shit.
I don't know if I want to go to downtown Oakland anywhere at 4 a.m.
Yeah, okay. Then maybe
no one's going there.
Then maybe
now.
don't give me this. Oh, why don't you just go to IHOP stuff and then put your monocle in and smoke on your stovetop pipe? No. Some of us don't have that privilege, Ozzy.
We have an IHOP in town. David, what's worse in Canton, Ohio? IHOP or Denny's?
IHOP is worse.
IHOP is so much worse in Ohio. Now, I'm not saying that your IHOP is bad, Ozzy. I'm saying that the IHOP in Canton is whack as shit.
Okay, hold on, though.
Meanwhile, we got two Denny's. They're both open 24 hours, man.
So
and they're open on Christian holidays.
Denny's or Waffle House?
Waffle House.
I don't have a Waffle House.
Waffle House is the best thing ever.
No, dude, it's not. It's the Waffle House is sketchy as fuck.
Waffle House is
I do like Waffle House a lot.
We have Waffle House here, and it is good. You have to be in the mood
Waffle
for
House and Denny's. Yeah, well, Waffle House and Denny's are like a stone's throw from each other. So
they're right next to each other in the sandwich district.
Yeah, but none of you guys have experienced Taco Bravo before.
I have not.
This is true.
Yeah,
I have not.
I will say that there's no better place for Mexican food than in Southern California. So, because we're like right next door to Mexico.
That's very accurate. It's the best tacos.
That's true.
I mean, I have
but
my
then
spots.
it's weird. But then you go to San Diego and they keep putting French fries and burritos.
No. He's not
San Diego, but it's weird because it's closer. It's closer to the border, but the Mexican food is worse there. I'll agree that the Mexican food is definitely better in LA.
It is.
Sure.
All the cool Mexicans come to live in LA. That's all there is to it.
Dream.
So wait, you telling me that the whack Mexicans came to Ohio?
You said it, not me.
Like all the cool ones are like, we're gonna go live over there. Then like, because I don't know, I know several people who are probably from Mexico that live in Northeast Ohio.
It's like I know 7 people who live here that are from Mexico. I think maybe, possibly.
Maybe from Puerto Rico. I don't know.
No, fairly certain they're Mexican, but that's it. It is about 7, but still, we're both darker than paper bags, so we chat with each other about life in Ohio.
Your weather reports from Ohio keep us going, Asif.
I mean, that's really all people pay attention to me for now is to figure out what the weather in Canton's like.
What about Lola? I like Lola on Bite.
The Lola content is great. I mean, obviously.
It doesn't get better than that.
She's a fan of Lola.
She's a good girl.
Into it.
And I was about to say, at least Lola doesn't jump onto your lap, but I'm getting a closer look, and there she is.
Yeah, she's definitely right there.
Yeah.
Thinking about jumping off my lap. Yeah.
Trying to, guys, it's dinner time, and I need to go get some stuff done.
Yeah.
David,
okay.
Right, David needs to go to Denny's.
Yeah. Hey, David. Thanks again for bringing up this conversation.
Yes. Thank you for having it.
And
I'm
sorry. I'm sorry you didn't get the 10 out of 10. It would have been a historical day. But I wait.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Life is a highway. I want to ride it all night long, especially with you, buddy boy.
All I want to do is apologize for setting my review live early with the 10. My bad.
My bad. Okay. I told Greg not to switch out the graphics at the end either, so I forgot to mention that one too.
Okay.
Greg, switch out the. Okay, so yeah, go to shacknews.com for interviews, news, reviews, previews, long reads, guides, videos, all sorts of good stuff. We're at
Doom
Shacknews.
content.
Yeah, a lot of Doom content. At Shacknews on Twitter. We're Shacknews on Facebook and Byte. We're on Byte. We don't really post a whole lot on Byte.
We're on Byte. You're on Instagram too. You post memes now because that's the only thing people like to see.
Shacknews Media on Instagram.
Post your thirst trap photos on Instagram. Also.
Yeah, you post the thirst trap photos in your Instagram story with the link to your link tree. No, not your OnlyFans. You gotta do a link tree.
So they hit your Patreon too.
Yeah, they'll hit your Patreon, your Premium Snap, and your OnlyFans.
I'm into it.
So yeah, consider subscribing to Shacknews on Twitch. We're Shacknews over there. You can give us Jeff Bezos' money once a month for free if you have Amazon Prime, which you should because we're living out Death Stranding right now. Kojima was a prophet. Death Stranding was a prophecy. You guys just don't appreciate logistics companies as much as Hideo Kojima does. And
building bridges.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah,
I know that I've already been on my soapbox once this episode, but getting back on it. If you're on the internet, which you probably are because you're listening to us through a series of tubes, on YouTube for the first time, youtube.com/ShackNewsGame, and also Gamer Hub videos. Let's say you're watching you're sharing a thing on the internet, like an article. Click the link, read the article, listen to the podcast, watch the video, actually consume the content you're sharing before you share it. It helps you become a more informed reader, listener, viewer.
Sharer of information.
It helps prevent the sharing of fake news, which is a huge problem these days. Right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So please,
yeah.
Click the link before you share it. It actually helps the writer, the creator of the content, gives them another view. It helps their analytics out. So if you actually care about the person who's writing the content, it's another thing, another reason to do it. Because so many times we get like a retweet from some brand account, and nobody clicks the link.
It has more retweets and likes than it does views.
Yeah, it happens so many times.
Don't I know it?
So it's like, please, click the link. It's not hard. That's all I'm asking. That's all. And then, Shacknews Mercury starts at $1 a month, goes all the way to $1,000 a year. Thank you to our ludicrous subs. Thank you to our ultra mega subs, our super mega subs, and our regular old-fashioned stinky Mercury mega subs.
When's our Ludicrousmas?
Ludicrousmas, it's Shackmas.
Shackmas.
And we're many months away from Shackmas.
I don't know.
White elephant back.
Ludicrous just I don't think there's gonna be a Ludicrousmas this year. He posted on Twitter about how he doesn't think that we're gonna be out of isolation by 420, which I think is actually Ludicrousmas.
That's all
accurate
news.
Yeah.
That would be after Easter, which is the target date for the president.
Yeah, the president wants Well, I mean, let's go hide eggs for all the evangelicals then.
Go watch
games
done. Go watch games done quick that weekend. Go watch Corona Relief done quick, which is just announced this morning.
That's gonna be awesome.
That's
and also,
right.
it's gonna be the Happy Bunny time in Animal Crossing or whatever, the Easter event.
Oh, Happy Bunny time.
Yes, Happy Bunny time.
Is that the official?
Yeah, it's like they have these non-denominational names for events that are clearly built around like holidays.
Resurrected Happy Bunny feels good.
Yeah, we celebrate the resurrection of the Happy Bunny.
Couldn't do Passover. Don't like kill a goat person and put their blood over your like hutches.
I guess not.
Check the souls of your firstborn kids.
Well, I mean, if you have the lamb's blood, I think that was like the thing, right? That saved you.
Yeah, you mark your above your heads about that. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Well, I hope that would be really fun if it was an Animal Crossing. I'm just saying. Like
so dark. Back. Little smiley emoji as you're doing it.
Yeah. Everyone's dancing around happy. Tom Nook would be the one to do it too. You know, he'd be the one slicing his throat.
His own throat?
No, the throat of the goat.
Yeah, or the sheep or whatever.
Yeah, okay. So we're just talking about a kosher goat sacrifice?
Yeah, for Animal Crossing Passover.
I don't know. Is Tom Nook? I don't know.
I think it's more of an Island of Dr. Moreau sort of thing, though. Like, Tom Nook has all these animal people, and he brings you there, and he's like, oh, we have to cohabitate. He looks a little like Marlon Brando.
I think he's more like a home builder who's been bailed out several times in the United States and, like, got away with a bunch of money. And then I'm not sure if they're really deserted islands or not. Because, like,
I'm sorry, David wanted to go to dinner. And my tangent is slowing him down.
That was the end of the show, and then you went and gummed up the works.
My bad. Oops. Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
It's okay. It's okay. Brittany's working on exposing that crook Tom Nook for who he is.
Nice.
That's right. That should be up by the time this goes live, right?
No, for sure, because this is going live when? Monday
at 8 a.m. Pacific, along with the review.
So this will go
someone watch? Also, can you watch that video review one more time so I can do all my changes in one swoop? If there's anything else that's
yes, I will watch your review.
All right.
Oh, we gotta send David off to Denny's now.
Okay.
All right.
Don't go to Denny's right now, David. Go somewhere safer. I don't know where.
No, I'm not. I'm going to my living room. It's relatively safe.
All right.
Okay.
Am I singing us out? Are we doing that on this?
No singing today.
I had a great song about friendship and being and 10 out of 10s. But...
Really? You did?
No, it's all right. It's okay.
Wait, do you? Do you really have a song?
I had an idea for a song, but I mean,
you can sing if you want to.
I don't know now. Now I feel like it's like not appreciated.
This has all been very different because you didn't sing at the beginning either.
I didn't. That's why I asked about.
I'll tell you, Blake, that since I became song editor here at Shacknews, I've been very adamant that no song will ever get a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
So you can sing this out if you want to.
That's fine.
It's been determined by Wickus.
All my songs are 5 out of 10s anyway. I know that.
No, I like your song.
I know. No, it's okay. I know about my mediocrity. It's all right. I understand. I see my sales. I see how much people support me as an artist. Like, I get the receipts when people buy my stuff. I know who's out there keeping it real, and who is just letting me flounder creatively by the support I get from my community, or rather don't get for the most part. Some people are great. Some people are fantastic. I remember those people. That's just something for every musician. That's something every musician does. That's a little tip for all you people out there. All your musicians friends know who's come to a show, who's bought an album, who's shared a link.
On that ominous note.
Yeah, I know.
They know.
Camp Analytics
They know. So just remember when moving day comes and your musician friend doesn't show up with his giant truck that he has to move all the band gear in all the time. It's probably because you didn't come to his shows, or like promote him in any sort of way. You know, just remember that. Remember that musician friends are great to have when it comes moving day, but they know when you didn't come to a show or buy anything ever. That's just my pro tip for everyone out there with musician friends.
Lola.
And I'll just leave them with that instead of a song this week.
Go out there and do it for Shacknews.
That's dark.
Sweet. That's the end of the episode, I guess.
Is that dark? I always thought it was a pretty good joke.
I like it.
I'm like, we remember.
Let me give you a tip, musician friends.
Like you want your
give you a tip, you son of a bitch.
You're gonna
need to have a community, you bastards.
But it's like if you want to be like, if you're moving, and you know the musician guy is the one guy with like a huge van, and who's also used to carrying heavy shit, right? Like that's a person you want on your team come moving day. But they remember. Sure. They'll know. Like that's been a set rule of mine for years now.
No one's moving ever again now that we have renovated.
Well, not now. Not now. No one's moving ever
so
now.
disregard all of that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, like, 2 or 3 weeks ago, that joke was relevant.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, musicians were relevant. Now we're not. Now we're worthless.
It could have been worse. I could have been a relevant musician at some point before this, so I guess I'm lucked out.
Well, I have everyone on the phone. I have to say something about Sam's gameplay that I saw, which was hilarious.
No!
So David, Sam crawls out of the sewer, gets thrown by Nemesis, right? It's the flamethrower scene. So like behind Nemesis, there are like 3 zombies. And so Sam runs away from Nemesis, turns, holds her grenades, and just stands there for like 8 seconds. I'm like, dude, he's going to get attacked. And the second he gets attacked by a zombie. Then he gets attacked by another zombie. And he drops a grenade, and then he dies.
Awesome.
You were like waiting for Mr. X to come to you, and I'm like, there's zombies behind you, dude.
Not Mr. X. Nemesis.
Nemesis. No, there were zombies. Yeah, sorry. And Nemesis, yeah. There's zombies behind him. And he was just waiting.
The process,
with he's like, I'm going to get him. Oh, God, shit, zombies. And he drops it. He kills himself. It's great.
I got to explore literally every nook and cranny of that game, my dude.
Well, you reloaded that segment like 4 times because you wanted to see if there were collectibles like where he throws you.
I'm going to stop recording. But I'm going to probably leave this on the episode. So, yeah.
No, I need Sam. I need your guide to the dulls, Sam. I need to find the dulls.
Yeah, I'm like 80% done.
9 out of 10.
Just a few more.